Okay, well, I'm showing 2 o'clock, so it's time to get rolling. Good afternoon, everybody, everybody. My name is Tom. I am the Minnesota MUFON State Director. I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. I'm going to stop that for a little bit so everybody can see everybody. So wave to the cameras. Everybody can say hello, 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 hello. Now we've all said hello, it's time to get into our slides. Our first up is our slides. And we've got so much stuff today. Some of the stuff I'm gonna have to go through really fast because we got like a big what's up in Minnesota. We got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm just gonna jump right in and get right down to business. So I gotta go back to share and let's share this. So, and I'm also trying something new with some of the what's up in Minnesota videos and stuff. So we'll see how that works when we get there. But for now, let's go with that. So all right, so we're at the Minnesota MUFON meeting, September 14th, 2024. Thank you all for being here. And it's not advancing for me. So let's see if that advances for me. So our meeting sponsors, the person who sponsored our Zoom meeting is Michelle Gates. So we want to thank Michelle. Wave or clap for Michelle. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. So sponsor our monthly Zoom meeting is $13.49. If you want to sponsor our joke of the month, it's still only $10. So, or if you just want to donate to Minnesota MUFON, you want to contact Jan Swenson at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com. And we still appreciate and need your donations to continue to bring your programming every month. So we're asking MUFON members to donate $5 and MUFON guests to donate $7 to continue to support Minnesota MUFON and our fine programming. You can contact our treasurer, Jan Swenson, at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com. We accept PayPal, Zelle, credit cards, personal checks, and cash. And of course, your kindness is appreciated. And now that we're kind of like on Zoom for a while, we're going to try to set it up so you would have to pay for the Zoom meeting because we're not getting the donations. So, and it's going to be a flat rate. The board voted on something. I don't know if they voted on 7 or 5, but it's going to be a flat rate for everybody. And for those of you who've paid for like meetings in advance, we've got a way so you can get into the meeting and get the link and still get it without having to pay again if you paid for it in advance. So, and thank you for paying for it in advance. We certainly appreciate that. So we're working on that so we can generate some money that way too. But your cooperation and kindness is always appreciated. So stay tuned. We are working on that. And of course, so I only got one announcement this week. So I should be this week. I should be on 95 KQDS radio in Duluth this Thursday at approximately 8:40. As you know, the days and times are subject to change. So watch 95kqds.com for details. And if you want to see recordings of me or hear recordings of me in the past, you can certainly get them out there. And I think Jared has them on the Northland MUFON site. Yeah, Jared's got them on the Northland MUFON site. So if you want to hear my 95 KQDS interviews from previous months, go ahead and check them out at northlandmufon.com. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that later too. So attention all field investigators, it's always a great day to log on to MUFON University. You can check your dashboard, read about MUFON University, take Astronomy 101, explore field investigator training, take professional development, MUFON Leadership Style Assessment, Presentation Design 101, and Public Speaking 101, space exploration, technology, computers, software applications, and more. And if you're a field investigator, you know they just redid all of MUFON University. So everybody's got stuff out there to classes to take if you haven't been out there for a while. I was having trouble getting in for a while. I finally got back in, and I'm trying to make it a goal. If I can go in and like do one class per day, because they're only about 5 to 10 minutes for the most part. Some might be longer or shorter, but they're not that, it's not that much time. So I'm going to try to make a commitment to do one a day, maybe at least 5 a week, so to kind of chop away all the training that I got out there for. But it's good training, it's good stuff. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's using the same techniques and procedures, and everybody has the same information. So yeah, so get into MUFON University and start taking those classes. If you're not a MUFON field investigator, I want you to consider become a MUFON field investigator. So do you want to investigate UFO reports? You can join the MUFON team and become a field investigator. You can work with me, you can work with Jared, the other field investigators, and our chief investigators. You'll see about what we do when we get to What's Up in Minnesota. So, and one thing Minnesota MUFON does is we educate the public. It's a MUFON goal to educate the public. So do you know of a group that would enjoy a presentation from Minnesota MUFON? These can be church groups, book clubs, Lions clubs, benefactors clubs, Rotary clubs, science clubs, social clubs, Knights of Columbus, schools, Boy or Girl Scouts, and others. We haven't done any of these recently. Me and Mike Harris went and did one a few years ago down in, I think it was a Rotary club down southwest of the Twin Cities there. They really enjoyed it. They wanted to hear about the UFO sightings that were in their area. So we customized presentations just for them. Had a really good time. I enjoyed it. I think Mike enjoyed it too. So if you know of a group who would like to hear about MUFON, what we do, maybe our history, what it's like to be a field investigator, let me know. We offer these at no charge. So we'll come out and we'll entertain you and educate your group at no charge. And I've had a good time doing it. And we'll see what we can create for you. And we would love, if you're not a MUFON member, we'd love you to become a member. Our basic member with the e-journal is $6.89 per month or $59.88 per year. And I'm going to buzz through these because I talk about them every month. We have a lot to cover. So our enhanced membership is $10.99 per month or $119.88 per year. And all the benefits, they're on the website. You can check that out. Our VIP membership is $299.88 per year. And our researcher membership is $399.88 per year. And of course, one of the benefits of membership is you get the MUFON journal. So if you're a basic member, you get the MUFON journal online only, but you can pay an extra fee and get the hard copy journal. These are full color. They look great. I'm going to show you what one of our older journals look like. That's kind of the black and white thing. They were still really good, but they don't have this impact like this one does. So this is our most recent journal, Reflections on the MUFON Symposium, Elevating the Game and ET's Treasure or ET's Trash. So very good to check out the journal as you get that as part of your membership. And our sky watch. So we've already gone past September 3rd's new moon and September 5th's Mercury at its greatest western elongation, being its highest viewing point above the horizon in the morning sky. But coming up September 18th, we've got a full moon, a super moon, known in the Native American tradition as the corn moon, partial lunar eclipse as the moon moves through the Earth's shadow. September 22nd, we got the September equinox at 12:39 UTC, nearly equal amounts of day and night throughout the world. And September 23rd, a close approach of the moon and Jupiter. So this actually comes in your MUFON journal. So as a MUFON member, you can see this in your journal. You can get updates at spaceflightnow.com, and you can see monthly sky maps at skymaps.com. So for your sky watchers. All right, to explore the various MUFON membership opportunities and to become a MUFON member, go to www.mufon.com/join. And MUFON is excited to announce, we're talking about it again, the Project Aquarius Digital Library. I've talked about this before, so I'm going to zip right through a lot of this stuff. Maybe the biggest, largest online UFO UAP research library in the world. We've been spending decades bringing this together with never before publicly available content anywhere. A lot of people have asked me, MUFON's gathered all this data. How come they're not sharing it with the public? Now we're sharing it with the public. So you can get into the Aquarius library and you can see a lot of the information that we have. We still keep the confidential contact information separate, but you'll see a lot of the other stuff that's available to us, like the Mars Repository, which is the MUFON Archive Research and Reporting System. We've got over 6,000 pages from 1967 to 1995 out there. And of course, like most of the stuff in the Aquarius Library, we're continuing to add. We're going to try to get as up to date as soon as possible. Right now, that's where they're at, 6,000 pages. And the next, we've got the Witness Sketch Gallery, which I think is great. We've got over 7,000 illustrations from our database of over 135,000 reports. Now, I've said it before, I'll say it again, granted, not all the sketches are as nice as this, but this is a sample of one of the sketches. So you can see what people are drawing, what they're showing us, what they're submitting as what they've seen in their reports. News Clippings Gallery. Now, I didn't mention this before. One of the 7 rooms is free to the public. This room is free to the public right now. You'll find aerial phenomenon research organizations files and bulletins, historical accounts of orbs and general UFO articles from newspapers and magazines. No charge for this one, open to the public. Currently, it contains 8,867 articles. So if you want to see, I mean, this article is from what, 1953. So if you want to look at historical stuff from newspapers, I mean, 8,867 articles. The price for this is incredible considering how much information you're getting. I'll tell you the price in a minute. I talked about the MUFON journal. Here's a journal from January 1977, very black and white. Think about the one I just showed you. This one, it's very good, but it's much more plain. We've got all the journals from 67 all the way up to 2010. We're going to keep on adding them to get the current ones up there too. So collections from private researchers. We've got collections from, it'll be launching in stages from Bob Pratt's on the left. Colonel Edward Ruppelt is in the middle, and Leonard Stringfield is on the right. And Minnesota MUFON's own Craig Lang's collection will be added in the future. I'm still working on the details, trying to get all the information transferred out to Ohio, but right now it's not there yet. But Craig Lang's stuff will be in there as well. And of course, the MUFON Symposium proceedings from 71 to 2002. We're going to keep adding more current journals to the future. So if you want to know what was popular in ufology, what was going on in MUFON, who the speakers were, what they're talking about, going all the way back to 71, you can check out the details from all the symposiums. Great stuff. Again, just an abundance of information to be had at this thing. And of course, the UFO report maps. It's a multi-level interactive UFO reporting map, including MUFON sightings, as well as reports from other UFO UAP reporting organizations from around the world. And that one just happens to be from UFO Stalker, that image right there. And like I said, Project Aquarius Library for $50 a year. For $50 a year, you get access to all that. Now, it says it's on sale for $50 a year. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not sure if it's really on sale or if that's the real price and they're just doing the $100, $50 to make it more appealing. But at least that's, I was under the impression it was $50 per year, but that's a huge amount of data for $50 a year. I mean, you break it down, it's less than $1 a week, and there's just so much data there. So if you're interested, oh, and the thing is too, for Project Aquarius library card, you do not have to be a MUFON member. So I know some people hesitate to join MUFON, but they're interested in this. You can purchase the Project Aquarius library card without becoming a MUFON member. So it is open to anyone who wants to purchase the card. So are you a MUFON member? Are you interested in participating in Minnesota MUFON in a bigger way? Interested in helping work closer with the MUFON leadership? That would be me and Jared. Do you have some technology experience? Would you like some? Are you a people person? So we're looking for a few volunteers to support us with various tasks. You can help Minnesota MUFON become a better chapter. And interested parties can speak to me or email me at mufontom@epcoachtom.com for more details. One of the things is, like I said, we're kind of online for a while. Part of that is we don't have enough people to be running the computers and get us, virtual and online and up and running with an in-person meeting. So I've got 2 people I think are really good, but I'd love to have 6 people solidly trained in so we can rotate people so people can have months off if they need them. But yeah, I'm looking for people to train. So that's one of the things, but we've got a couple open positions on the board and I'll talk about that too. But yeah, if you're interested in volunteering with us, we're interested in talking to you. So the Minnesota MUFON Symposium Fund. So MUFON requires chapter representation at the annual symposium. Minnesota MUFON Board of Directors elected to establish a fund and to send a representative. So to donate, please contact, guess who? It's Jan Swenson again at jan.swenson.pioneer@gmail.com. And we really do. We appreciate your donations. You guys have paid for meetings in advance. You've paid for Joke of the Month. You've paid for our Zoom stuff. We've asked for money because we're in need of it. You've donated. You guys have donated and donated and donated, and your generosity has not gone unrecognized. It's not gone unappreciated. We see you. We appreciate you. We acknowledge you. We thank you so much for your continued donations because you guys are the best. You're the best. All right. And we'd like to thank all the people who've donated the past few months because really you have. You guys continue to donate and you continue to stuff. And we could not continue to run the organization and do all this without you. So thank you so much for that. So our MUFON membership, we're down again. We're down to 70. I know, look at Jared, poor Jared. Jared was, when we got to 102 in February, Jared's going, we're on our way to 200. We're still on our way to 200. We're just a little bit further away from it than we were back in February. Look at this. We have to go all the way back to November of 2020 to be down to 77. We're down like 4 years worth of membership. So that's 25 people we've lost since February. So it is what it is. If you're on the fence, consider joining MUFON. And here's how it works. When you join the MUFON Global Organization, and you use a Minnesota address, you're automatically a Minnesota MUFON member. So that's how that number increases. When you join the global organization, put in a Minnesota address, that adds to that number. So I've had people ask, so do I got to join the global and the Minnesota, or can I just join the Minnesota? Joining global with a Minnesota address makes you a Minnesota member. So, but right now we're at 77. I was so happy when we broke 100, but we'll still get there. We're still working on getting this. That's what our membership currently looks like. So, all right. So if you need to contact me, you can reach me at mufontom@epcoachtom.com and check out the Northland MUFON website. I'm going to show you the Northland MUFON website in just a minute, but you can see it at northlandmufon.com. And of course, don't forget to check out the global website at www.mufon.com. Now let's look at the Northland MUFON site. This is a Northland MUFON site, and Jared has worked so hard on getting this together. Looks just fantastic. So what does he have to say about it? Well, he has to say Northland MUFON website is looking for more content. So if you'd like to contribute an article, a story, post pictures of an ET up close and personal, perhaps you have suggestions on what you think should be on the website, please let us know. The site will only be as good as we make it together. We can make it one of the premier websites for ufology out there. Contact northlandmufoninfo@gmail.com or mnmufonjair@yahoo.com. And of course, now we've got to our extraterrestrial joke of the month. We're going to do a Star Trek joke this month. We're going to do a Star Trek joke. So get your chat boxes up if you think you got the answer to this one. But before we do the joke, we have to tell you the joke is sponsored by MarsCon 2025 Gone Rogue. Takes place on March 7th through 9th, 2025 at the Hilton, Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport Mall of America, 3800 American Boulevard East in Bloomington, Minnesota, 55425. But what is MarsCon? MarsCon is a fan-run science fiction convention for all ages held every March in the Twin Cities area. At MarsCon, you'll find panel discussions, gaming, parties, guest of honor presentations, music of many kinds, an art show, a film anime room, a science room, dealer's room, charity auction, and masquerade. But wait, there's more. Their Con and a Con comedy music track attracts performers and listeners from across the country. This is a veritable smorgasbord of sci-fi, fun, adventure, and fantasy. Various ticket packages available. Go to marscon.org/2025 for all the details. If you can find them, they've gone rogue. But yeah, so I've been to MarsCon a couple times. I've even presented at MarsCon once or twice. So good time. There's so much stuff going on there. It's like nonstop all weekend long. I mean, Jan and Joe, once it's over with, they're like exhausted because it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of stuff and it's a lot of fun. If you get a chance to go to MarsCon 2025, I encourage you to check it out. And now, I got to go back up. So our joke of the month is, I hope you didn't see the answer. How many Vulcans does it take to change a light bulb? If you think you've got the answer, put it in the chat. If you think you got the answer, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. I got to be able to see the chat too. So let me see. Can I see the chat? How many Vulcans does it take to change a light bulb? Any guesses? Any guesses? I'm looking for guesses. Looking for guesses. I wish I could see the chat better. Where's the chat? Or I think if you raise your hand, it'll pop to the head of my view screen and I can unmute you. How many Vulcans does it take to change a light bulb? I'll give you a few more seconds. Not seeing any guesses. Usually I get a guess or two on, usually Bill McNeff will at least take a pot shot at something. So how many Vulcans does it take to change a light bulb? I'm going to tell you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Approximately 1.0000000000. Approximately. It was a Vulcan answer. It's a Vulcan question. It's a Vulcan joke. It's a Vulcan answer. So that's your Minnesota MUFON extraterrestrial joke of the month. And so if you'd like to sponsor the Minnesota MUFON joke of the month or submit a joke to the Minnesota MUFON joke of the month, because I'll use your jokes too. I've used them before. Submit your request to MUFONTom@epcoachtom.com, and your joke may be the joke of the month. Such statistics and rankings, I'm going to stop sharing for a while because before we get into that, we're going to do our announcements. So the mission of MUFON is a scientific study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. MUFON has 3 goals. Our number 1 goal is we investigate UFO sightings and collect the data in the MUFON database for use by researchers worldwide. Our number 2 goal, we promote research on UFOs to discover the true nature of the phenomenon with an eye towards scientific breakthroughs and improving life on our planet. And our 3rd goal, we educate the public on the UFO phenomenon and its potential impact on society. That's one of the things we do here on the 2nd Saturday of every month. So we usually start out with the 1 o'clock social time. We start, this meeting times vary a little bit based on content. Today we're starting at 2. I probably could have started earlier, but starting at 2, we usually have, this stuff for about an hour. Then our speaker comes on around 3:15. So meetings may or may not be hybrid. Hybrid meaning there's some people in person while some people are online. But right now we're doing online only. But watch your emails, watch Facebook, and watch Meetup for announcements of whether we're in person, online, or hybrid. So, and I think on Meetup, I think we're called the Minnesota or Twin Cities UFO Research Group. So we're not listed as Minnesota MUFON. I think it's Twin Cities UFO Research Group. And start times are going to vary based on meeting content. So again, watch your e-blast, Facebook announcements, and Meetup. So I don't run this chapter all by myself. I absolutely do not for a second. I have lots and lots and lots of help. So like I said, I'm the state director, but I need to introduce you to my assistants, people who help me make this happen. My assistant state director, you can see him wave to the people. Jared Nelson is our assistant state director. He's also on the ERT team, and he's our director of communications. So that's great. And then Linda Folkerts-Maleka, she's our chief investigator. I don't see her here right now. She's been a little bit under the weather, so we're all wishing the best for Linda. We're so glad to have her on board as our chief investigator. She's doing an outstanding job. And our secretary and member of the ERT team is Mr. Bill McNeff. I don't see Bill here, but let's give Bill a big round of applause anyways. Give Bill a round of applause. And I do see her here. Wave to the camera, our treasurer, Jan Swenson. Wave, can't Jan? Give Jan a big round of applause. And of course, our membership director, I don't see our membership director here, Ivor Metz, one of the newer board members. And he recently decided he joined the board kind of on a preliminary trial basis. And he decided he wanted to join us permanently. So we're so glad to have Ivor on board. Let's give Ivor a big round of applause. And one of the board positions we have open is we have programming coordinator. We need someone to help program our speakers, our wonderful speakers, such as Marianne and Dave. So if you're interested in being our programming coordinator, let us know. We can talk about that. And today's meeting, we've got What's Up in Minnesota. We had problems with the CMS. And then I was not here for the July meeting because of the symposium. So I got about 3 months worth of CMS data to show you guys with What's Up in Minnesota. And then what everybody's really excited about, Marianne, Robb, and Dave Rich are here presenting Real Encounters when Law Enforcement Meets the Unknown. So we're looking forward to that. Like I said, I've seen them a few times. So I'm really excited about seeing that presentation. Upcoming meetings. So next month we'll have another edition of What's Up in Minnesota. I'm working on getting Kenny Thompson here. Longtime members know Kenny. He's been a member for a long time. He has been having some computer technical issues, so he's not even sure he can get online to do it. So we're working on that. I might have some backup plans in case that doesn't happen. But hopefully we'll have Kenny in October. November, we're going to have What's Up in Minnesota again. Then we're going to have Bill DePaula speaking. Bill is he's an electrical engineer. I met Bill at the symposium this year. It's actually, we were on the shuttle from the hotel back to the airport, and I got to talking to Bill, and he's an electrical engineer. He's a really interesting UFO experience story to share with us. Him and his wife had this experience. Really cool. And then as an electrical engineer, he developed this UAP detector, which is pretty affordable. And it's interesting because it detects, it scans across 3 different spectrums. I think it scans the electromagnetic fields, the magnetic fields, and the gravitational fields. So it scans those 3 things looking for anomalies or variations which could be indicative of a UAP. So that's he's going to come and talk about that and how he developed that and what that's all about. So that's very cool. In December, in November, there won't be What's Up in Minnesota because I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be here. So we might have extra Bill DePaula. We might have some other filler stuff, but yeah, I won't be here for What's Up in Minnesota in November. December, we'll probably have a double What's Up in Minnesota because I will be back. We're going to have Debbie Ziegelmeyer here, which I'm really excited about because she's the state director, I think, of Missouri, and she's also head of the MUFON dive team. A lot of people go, MUFON has a dive team? Yes, MUFON has a dive team, and Debbie is the head of it. And Debbie is so dedicated and such a hard worker and such a great field investigator. And she did a presentation at the symposium about underwater UFO and UAP stuff, and it was really great. And I think just her talking about what the dive team is like and what that's all about will be great. So we're gonna have Debbie here in December. She's really excited about it, so that should be very cool. And we're kicking off January in a huge way. We're gonna do What's Up in Minnesota, the year in review, like I always do, review the whole year. Then we're gonna do new What's Up in Minnesota, and then I've managed to get Scott Walter from the History Channel, America Unearthed. He's gonna be here, not live, but he'll be with us on Zoom. I mean, he headquarters out of Minneapolis. I heard he headquarters out of Minneapolis. I got to get hold of this guy. Got in touch with him, and he's really excited. He's got a lot of cool UFO stuff he wants to share with us. Lots of brand new stuff he's been working on. So Scott Walter in January. So that's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to that. So I told you in the past we might do a symposium recap. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But between having Marianne and Dave and then having Debbie, you're kind of getting a MUFON symposium recap, in the long version of it. So maybe have Chad Lewis on again. Chad Lewis from Minnesota do a sky watch for us. But yeah, so that's what's coming up in the next few months. Gotta let you know that Minnesota MUFON has a YouTube channel. Right, we currently have over 1,700 subscribers. We want you to go out there and subscribe to our channel. We currently have 61 videos out there. If you remember, it wasn't too long ago. We had only 29 videos out there. We had 29 videos out there for month after month after month after month. Now we're cranking up another 2 or 3 videos every month, and that's thanks all to the hard work and dedication of Jared Nelson. Gotta give Jared Nelson a big round of applause because he's getting our videos out there. He's got us up to 61 videos right now. We've got videos from Paula Harris out there, from Ken Storch, Sherry Wild, a lot of times when they're here in Minnesota speaking. So you are not going to find this anywhere on A&E or History Channel or anywhere because they were here speaking live. Ted Phillips, Grant Cameron, Minnesota MUFON members Joe Swenson, Craig Lang, the late Craig Lang, our experiencer panel. Jared's putting What's Up in Minnesota out there. So if you want to see what's up in Minnesota from the past, the historical ones are out there doing other stuff. So Jared's doing a fantastic job. Check out our YouTube channel. I know most of you don't have cameras on, but you can either do a reaction or wave your hand. Or anyone here attending for the first time? I mean, I know Marianne and Dave are attending for the first time, and welcome. But anyone else attending for the first time here? Okay, so stats for today. So these are our rankings. Now, remember, we haven't done this for a while, so I had to go back and get more information. So I think I went back to June 9th, the day of our June meeting, up through yesterday. So you're getting current stats from all that stuff. So let's see what we got. So first up, we've got our global rankings, June 8th through September 13th. There was United States had 1,007 reports, France at 58, Canada at 55, United Kingdom at 42, going all the way down to Uzbekistan and the Netherlands, New Zealand at 1, and Norway going all the way down. But yeah, so that's what and you think about it, that's about 3 months' time, 1,007 reports in 3 months. That's kind of down for the United States. It's not I think that's still kind of we're still trying to pick up momentum from a CMS being offline and people not being able to report to us for a while. That's what my guess is what that is, because for 3 months, that's not a huge number of reports or sightings for us. So let's go. So MUFON's rankings by state. Of course, California is always up there with 100. Florida had 72. Texas had 65. Arizona had 50. That's Dave and Rich, or Dave and Rich. Dave and Marianne had 50. We're down there. We had 16. So Minnesota had 16. And really, again, we're looking at about 3 months worth of time. And 16 in Minnesota for 3 months is also on the low side, because I always say an average for Minnesota is about 6 to 8 per month. So I'd expect us to be in the 18 to 24 range for a 3-month period. So being at 16, we're a little bit low, but so that also means in What's Up in Minnesota, you're going to see 16 new cases today. And one of them's got some really cool sketches, and Jared worked on this one with some really cool sketches in it. So we'll show you that. So what else we got? So MUFON shapes reported from June 8th through September 13th, 187 circles, 182 spheres, 105 others, 96 triangles, 89 unknown, 82 ovals, 7 teardrops going all the way down. And I put the 7 teardrops, 7 cones, 6 blimps, and 3 crosses of what we're looking at. So that's what has been reported in the past 3 months to MUFON. So, and the distance stats, I love the distance stats. 159 reports were less than 100 feet away. 140 reports were from 101 feet to 500 feet. 251 reports were from 501 feet to a mile. 261 reports were over a mile away. 214 were unknown, and 39 they just didn't put a value in. 37 landings, hoverings, or takeoffs, and 56 entities observed. So, because there's always the skeptics going, oh, it was the space station, it was this, it was that, it was Starlink, You can't really mistake an entity. You can't mistake Starlink for an entity. So entities is just you either believe the person or you don't. They're telling the truth or they're not. But even that, 56 entities observed. If you think back, again, this is about 3 months period. Normally, I give this every month. So usually in a single month, the numbers are around the mid 30s. So over 3 months, I'd expect it to be up in the triple digits by now. So I think it's not because the ET activity is down. I think it's people have not come back to MUFON yet. They don't know they can report yet. So our sighting reports are down due to our database issues. So 56 entities over the past 3 months. So What's Up in Minnesota, June 8th through September 13th. So there's no updates. We updated all the old stuff. So we've got all new stuff. We got 16 new cases. None of them are ERT because I can't show you ERT stuff. So, but none of them are ERT. So you're going to see something on all 16 cases today. So let's go with so here's an overview of our cases. Again, we've got 16 submitted. The submission date range is June 8th of this year through yesterday. The dating range of sightings is July 28th of 74 through July 30th, 24. And that's not right. July 31st is not correct. I didn't update that date. So because the date range of the sighting, there was one sighting that happened yesterday and it was reported already. So the actual date range is September 13th, 2024. So I got that date wrong. But and that date range of July 28th, 1974, I looked at the case. The witness in her detail, if I recall correctly, she says the sighting actually happened in 66. So I don't know why she put in that date. So the date is off. I think that might be a case Jared looked at, and I'm not sure, but there might be. I'm not sure why she got the date so far off. But we have one case of interest. Shapes we're going to see 2 discs, 4 spheres, 1 oval, 1 bullet missile, 1 unknown, 1 triangle, 1 square rectangle, 1 cigar, 1 circle, 1 they just didn't have a shape listed, 1 was listed as Starlink, and 1 was listed as other. So our valet classifications, we're going to see 2 AN1s. So remember, the valet classifications is how we classify and qualify different sightings in MUFON. And an AN1, AN stands for anomaly. So this is anomaly of the first kind. MUFON defines that as anomalies that do not have long-lasting physical effects, such as amorphous lights or unexplained explosions. We're going to hear about 2 of those today. 4 CE1. So CE is close encounter, like close encounter of the third kind. This is close encounter of the first kind. We're going to see 4 of those. MUFON defines a close encounter of the first kind as class of objects seen on the ground or a short distance to the observer. We're going to see 4 of those. We're going to see 3 FB1. So FB is a flyby. It's a flyby of the first kind. There's going to be 3 of them. MUFON defines an FB1 as a simple sighting of a UFO flying by in the sky, the category most frequently reported. So we're going to see 1 FB3. So that's a flyby of the third kind. And MUFON defines an FB3 as it's a flyby of an object accompanied by the observation of beings on board. So yeah, I don't know if it's in the detail, but yeah, that's how we define a flyby of the third kind. Flying by, observation of beings on board. It's got 1 of those. We have 6 MA1. So MA is a maneuver of the first kind. We've got 6 cases of a maneuver of the first kind. MUFON defines MA1 as gathers those UFO observations that involve an object with a discontinuous trajectory, such as a drop, a maneuver or a loop. So it's doing some type of maneuver, basic maneuver. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And since we've got so many of them, let's just jump right in and get going. So case number 137181-U, this took place on June 8th of 2024, 2:35 p.m. A circle was seen, MA1, so a maneuver of the first kind, the scene. This took place in St. Michael, Minnesota, if you know where St. Michael is. The short description was enjoying a nice day with no wind and noticed an object in the sky. So here's just a segment of their detailed description. Their detailed description part of it was noticed a very strange object in the sky with no apparent wings. I'm a private pilot, and what got my attention is there were no wings or sound. It was moving quite fast. Now, she submitted, I think, a bunch of pictures, and I always try to show you everything I can, but one of her pictures was like of her flight credentials and stuff, so it's got her identifying information. I'm not going to show that, but I think she also included a couple of pictures. But Linda's already completed this one. Status is complete, but let's take a look at those pictures. I think there's 2 pictures on this one. You can barely see it. It's this white dot right up here. And I don't know if you're seeing my mouse. And Jen, I'm seeing you. Can you wave if you're seeing my mouse? You are seeing the mouse. Okay. So this white dot right up here, I think is what she's talking about. So, and let's see. So, and then of course she did a crop and she did a silver tone on it. So you can kind of see there's like the shadow of it. So, you know, it looks like sunlight's coming from here. So it looks like it's not something embedded or implanted. It looks like it is an actual object out in real time and space. So, and did she have a third? No. So this is completed as an unknown UAV. UAV is unidentified aerial vehicle. So Linda said this investigator, oh, no, actually, I think Bill, this investigator did not find any related sightings for this time period. The witness is a private pilot and is familiar with aircraft types and functionality. Witness didn't find any similar characteristics to known craft. Photos submitted are fuzzy and not relevant, as can't be used to determine what the object is. Due to the witness credibility and not being able to identify object in known aircraft or astronomical events, the investigator determines this to be an unknown UAV. So thank you very much, Linda, for your work on that. We certainly appreciate all you do for Minnesota MUFON, not just your investigations, but also as chief investigator. We thank you so much for that. Moving on to case number 137229-U. This took place on June 10th, 2024 at 10:52 p.m. A sphere was seen, a MA1, so maneuver of the first kind in Carver County. 4 very bright lights, round, much brighter than anything in a clear sky. Their detailed description was lights were observed in a vertical line above the other, hovered for about 4 minutes, then one by one moved off at a moderate pace, not super fast, to the northwest, until no longer visible. So actually, Linda and Bill both worked on this one. It is now completed. I think there's photos with this one. So let's take a look, see what we got here. So yeah, so I think what they're talking about is these 2 here and this one over here, because this one way up here, I'm not positive, but as I look at it, it strikes me as a lens flare, which could be from one of these 2, but I'm not sure. She says 4 objects, but in some of the other pictures, you'll see that there's 4, and I'm not sure what this is up here either, but I said, my gut's just telling me for some reason this is a lens flare, but these are what she's looking at. And actually, these 2 are kind of interest because they seem to be kind of in tandem, as you'll see in the next couple pictures. So see, again, those 2 that are just kind of right there, they, you know, they don't look lens flares to me, so I don't think it's a camera lens thing. But then, you know, Dave and Marianne are both here, and they're very, very experienced. So maybe they'll jump in and say, hey, we know what those are. But because we're always welcome to more input on that. So I think I have one more photo of this. So yeah, so here's the whole thing where it's kind of stacked. So see, those 2 are kind of together in a sense. I mean, their distance is closed, but they're still kind of, and those other 2 on top are kind of moving, you know, in a together type way too, in a sense. So, and then this one's been completed. Let's see what they found out on that. So. Completed unknown others. So based on all details in this case, disposition is unknown others. So Bill McNeff closed this one out. So we want to thank you, Bill, for your work on that. So yeah, just don't know exactly what that was, but moving on to case number 137258-U. This took place on June 12th, 2024 at 9:15 p.m. A cigar-shaped object was seen, CE1, so we're talking a close encounter of the first kind, was seen in Elk River. Their short description was tic-tac gray-shaped object. This is their whole detailed description. This is everything that said. On the evening of June 21st, I was outside trying to capture a picture of a lightning bolt. I did not see the object in the pictures until the next day, and I never witnessed it with my bare eyes. But there's no denying what it is. My observation is exactly what yours is going to be upon looking at the picture. And so as I read that as a field investigator and having some experience, when someone says it's in the picture, but I didn't see it with my bare eyes, I immediately go, it's a camera refraction, a lens flare, probably something like that. But with this picture, I don't think that's the case. I think there really is something there. But you've heard of people taking pictures of the night sky for storms and things, and suddenly there's something there that they didn't see. I think that's what this is. And this is a really interesting picture. So I've got the picture. I'm going to show it to you right now. And as it's standing, I mean, that's obviously not a lens flare. it's just very curious what that is. So he's taking pictures of lightning, and yeah, it's when I saw, because usually when I go, they didn't see it with their bare eyes. I kind of go, it's probably not an extraterrestrial vehicle, but this one I can't say that about. I think there's really something there. So it's a thing, a very interesting shot. So let's move on. Let's see what. So it's completed. Let's see what we came up with on this one. Completed unknown UAV, unidentified aerial vehicle. So the witness's photo of the Tic Tac object is very clear. Also in the photo, you can see the lightning, which supports her statement and why she was taking photos. Witness did not see the object while taking the pictures. There's a gray cylindrical object in the photo, which may have been captured while passing through the sky while taking photos. This photo should be analyzed further to determine if it has been altered since witness's husband was the one who discovered the object. So the disposition is unknown, unidentified aerial vehicle. So thank you, Peter Collins, for your work on that. Very interesting case. Great photograph. And I'd love to see what an analyst has to say about that. So case number 137522-U took place on June 29th of this year at 10:05 p.m. An oval-shaped object was seen. MA1, so maneuver of the first kind, was seen in Lakeville. Consistently recording UFOs. This one was one of 6 recorded from the 27th through the 29th. His detailed description is, I have witnessed over a dozen high-altitude UFOs with erratic flight patterns appearing and disappearing over the last 4 months. I have a second witness with me that will identify after being contacted with her permission. So this one's in progress. There's about 7 videos here. And so I'm going to show you, they're all very similar. They vary in length. To show you all of them will probably take about 10 minutes. And I don't think we have time for that. So I'm going to show you parts of at least 1, maybe 2. And the interesting thing is too, he mentions that, it's moving. It's not my hand. And his witness goes, no, your hand is moving. And it's interesting because when you're zoomed out, holding your hands still is not too bad, but when you're really zooming in, zooming far away, the slightest movement of your hand can have a lot of look of movement here. But some of them may be stars, but there are some that are definitely moving independently. So here's that trick that I was going to try to do, and I'm not sure if I can do to share these with you. So I'm going to see if I can share some of these with you, because let me go to the next screen. And so yeah, wait, yeah. So I'm going to, and I'm not sure if I'll be sharing the right ones. But let me see. I'm going to stop share for a second. And I'm going to go share here, and I'm betting I think it's on this tab. Yeah, it looks like it's on this tab. So I'm just going to show you a couple of these. And Jan, wait if you're seeing this. You're seeing that? Okay, cool. Wait, there should be, okay, there. Okay. So this, I'll start with, that's 1 minute and 15. Here's a 28-second one. We'll take a look at this one. And I should say too, some of them have some F-bombs in them. So if you're sensitive to F-bombs, be prepared for F-bombs, but they're not a lot and they're not bad. So there you can see a couple of them, and it's right there. Yeah, I don't know if like the 4th of July, because a lot of these have lots of bangs going off. Where's one? There's a one where you can kind of see things. Let me try this one. It's 19 seconds. Here's another. Let's check it, because some of you can see them moving in relation to each other. So that one you can see those 2 are definitely moving further apart. So even if one's a star, the other one's not, because it is moving separate from it. So whether it's a satellite or sorry, I had to pick the F-bomb ones. I'm sorry. And I'll try one more. That's a longer one. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, we'll try this one, and that'll be the last one we do for these guys. So I don't know if it's like 4th of July when this happened, because they're just yeah. So I think when those 3, I think you can see, are they moving in relation to each other? Yeah, and there's that bottom one that's very faint. So yeah, so you can see some of them moving in relation. So I'm going to stop share. I'm going to go back to, so that's what we had on that one. So but it's currently in progress. We'll revisit this one, and we'll give you an update on this one once Bill has completed his investigation and has completed that one. So let's go on to case number 137570-U. This took place on June 28th of this year at 11:45 a.m. A square rectangle was seen, FB1, so flyby of the first kind, in Minnetrista. Square object moving south slowly to the wind. And their detailed descriptions, all I put in there was same. So Linda is investigating this one. It's in progress. There's a video for this one too. So I'm going to show you the video for this one. I don't remember if it's a longer one or not, but I think I know which one it is. So I think these are lining up how I expected them to. So I think it's this one here. And I'll share that and I'll maximize that, baby. Yeah, let's take a look at this. It's only 10 seconds. Yeah, so that's for case number 137887. I'm not sure if that's the one we were just looking at, but we'll find out in just a second. Oh, come on, get out of the way. Oh, that was for a different one. So, but I think if you've been with us for a while, you probably recognize it. It should look very familiar to you. But yeah, so that's not the one for this case. We'll keep hitting those videos and make sure we get to the right one in a second. So so case number 137675-U. This took place on July 7th of 2024 at 10:30 p.m. A triangle was seen. Classification FB1, so flyby of the first kind, took place in Hinckley. So the short description was witnessed a very large silent object flash 3 lights and cross the sky with immense speed. Detailed description, very long and detailed description. It was a really long description of unusually large craft moving silently at an incredible speed along the St. Croix River. This is the one I think that's got the really cool drawings in it. So Jared's worked on this one. It's complete. Let's take a look at what they've got, because I think there's the 2 drawings on this one. So yeah, so obviously the person took some time on drawing this out. He's got his little campground there. He's got some of the woods. He's got the sky. He's got the north, south, east, west. He's got the some of the constellations in there and the object flying, where it came from, where it went to. So obviously spent a lot of time. Really cool drawings. I was really impressed by that. I was like, wow, the guy took some time to really show exactly what he saw. So he was on the St. Croix River. And the river is the border of Minnesota, Wisconsin. So he's right on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. So there's his campsite, and there's where the object went. And his next picture is more of the object as it flew overhead. So that's what it shows there. It was, because at first he thought it was an airplane, but he said it was much bigger than an airplane. I think I don't know if he had a pilot's background, but and these lights were all white. They weren't the red and green like you'd expect with an traditional commercial aircraft. So they were all white. I don't think they were on all the time too. I think they came on a little bit later. So, but he was like just a perfect equilateral like that. So a really cool drawing. So I appreciate him doing that. So so let's see what Jared concluded on this one. So he says unknown UAV. So this is just a segment. Jared had a lot of good information in there. So after speaking with the witness, he seemed credible and calm. He's seeking nothing from this event other than to just report it and add it to the list for others. I believe the witness did indeed see an unknown object. However, I did submit a Freedom of Information Act request to the FAA for radar information for that night. Until that comes back, I'm closing the case as an unknown UAV. So, and that's the thing too. I've talked about this before. He closed the case. Even though cases are completed and closed, they're never truly completed with MUFON. We can always, if we have more information or more data that comes up, we can always go back in, we can add to the stuff, we can change the disposition. So even though cases are closed and completed, we're still open to, because the end goal is really getting the right answer, getting the right information, and really determining what it is. If this information comes along later, that's fine too. So Jared, thank you very much for your work on that. It looks like a really interesting case. I bet you enjoyed working on that one. So. Case number 137832-U took place on July 20th of 2024 at 4:52 p.m. A disc was seen, FB1, so flyby of the first kind. The location was in Lincoln County, and they gave it's Highway 14th and County Road 1. A few UFOs spotted near a water tower. So that's their detailed description. Did I forget to put it in there, or they just didn't have one? But so I'm investigating this one. This one's in progress. Interesting photographs on this one. So I may have just forgot to put in the description, but the interesting photographs. So you can see clearly 2 of them right here. The third one is way back here. And she actually zooms in for the next picture so you can get a better look at these. So, because it is very curious. They're kind of lined up, but not quite. And this one is obviously way off on the side. So let's take a look. And it almost looks like from the grass, it looks like she may be in a moving vehicle. I don't recall if she's in a moving vehicle or not. So let's take a look at the next one. So yeah, so and again, that one, for some reason, this one down here, it's like it adds a layer of credibility to me. So it's like if you were to like try to fake stuff, these 2 would be relatively easy to do, and you just kind of like leave it at that. It doesn't make sense to intentionally add this one down here. It just doesn't make sense. So to me, for some reason, this just strikes me as more genuine and authentic. But again, I think she's in a moving vehicle. So are these discs, are they blurred? So it's a little hard to tell what's going on there. But and I've been in touch with her, haven't done the interview yet. She's got some congestion and things going on, so she's not feeling very well. So hadn't been able to do the interview on that one yet. But so I'm working on that. I will revisit this one and update you when this one has been completed. So. Oh, and this is also a little piece of map she put in saying, here, this is where that windmill is. So we get the map where the windmill actually was. So that was very cool. She submitted that. Case number 137882. This is one of Jared's. I'm going to buzz through this real quick. Date unknown, shape blank, anomaly 1, and missing data. It's listed as complete. The reason I'm just buzzing through it because it's a duplicate of the next one, and we're going to show you it in the next one. So not much reason to spend much time here. So insufficient data, duplicate of 187 or 137883 for more information. So 137883, look at that. -U took place on July 28th of 1974. Now, I believe in her detailed description, she mentions this happening in 1966. I think it was 66. So I'm curious about the discrepancy in the date, but not that big a deal. 5:30 p.m. A disc-shaped object was seen. CE1, so close encounter of the first kind in Richfield. Her short description was, it followed me home. She had a really, really good detailed description. She's a great storyteller. I read through the whole thing. It was really interesting. But a segment of what she said is, I walked along and something above me caught my eye, stopping me in my tracks. Above me and slightly above over the graveyard, I saw a saucer-shaped silver craft with orange running lights moving sequentially on the outside edge, left to right. I stood there and stared at it for a moment or two, then looked around to see if there was anyone outside in the vicinity to whom I could yell for corroboration or potential help if needed. No one anywhere. This took place in South Minneapolis, and we're in the Richfield area. And she's mentioning streets and intersections. You can actually go to these locations. And she's talking about how she was trying to not be afraid and walk home very calmly. But after she got so far and was kind of following her, she decided to bolt home. And she ran into her house, and her mom was in the kitchen cooking. And she's like, Mom, you got to see this. Come out, come out, come out. So she brought her mom outside and brought her out. Her mom saw it too. And her mom had a very interesting comment, because she said to her mom, what is that? And her mom said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but her mom said, I don't know, and don't ever ask me about that again. Which is like, what does that mean? So very curious a response. And then she goes on to say, like, a couple of days later, she's with some friends of hers at one of their houses, and they see something odd too. So yeah, very interesting read, very interesting interview. So Jared has completed that one. Let's see what Jared had to say about that. Unknown UAV. The witness was credible to me. The witness was concerned over anonymity and did not want to be recorded, and was not looking for recognition of any kind. Witness just wanted to tell the story and get it out there for others to hear, as long as their name stayed out of it. That in itself lends a degree of credibility to the story. The witness story was interesting, plausible, although that area today is very busy at the time of the sighting, and it's highly possible that the witness could have been the only person in the area, as the witness stated when they looked around for help, confirmation for someone else in the area. It's like she mentioned, like Penn Avenue and like 48th Street and stuff. So see the witness interview for further information. I believe the witness did indeed see a hovering craft of unknown origin. Case disposition, unknown UAV, Jared Nelson. So thank you, Jared, for that very interesting case. That was really a great read. So moving on. Case number 137886-U took place on July 28th of 2024 at 7:30 p.m. The shape was unknown. Ballet classification was an AN1, so that's anomaly of the first kind. So if you think anomaly, it could be just a bang or a boom, so they might not have seen a shape. So that could be why it was unknown. This took place in Plymouth. The short description was, fixed object observed directly above me. And here's just a segment of the detailed description. I stared up to the clouds and notices on edge of the moving high altitude clouds a bright white speck. I focused on it to try and identify it. The clouds moved next to it, but it remained stationary. It reminded me of a very similar experience I had as a teenager, not far from there. Because of that, I continued to watch for any movement. However, it did not move, and the clouds moved in underneath it. I did not see it again afterwards. So Peter Collins is working on this. It's in progress. We will update you on this one once it's completed. I'm trying to think if there's a picture or anything with this one. No picture. Okay. So case number 13788-7 or 887-U took place on July 27, 2024 at 4 a.m. A bullet missile was seen. Classification MA1, so maneuver of the first kind, took place in Anoka County. A line-shaped object that was moving and flashing not shown in video. That's the first one I showed you where there's that little streak. That's this one. So multicolored pencil-shaped object, unclear at size or distance, but what wasn't shown in the video is it had a light that was moving around randomly while traveling in a straight path. I took a video from my phone, and then my phone died. Me and my friend, who I'm not going to name, look at each other, then look back, and it's gone. So Steve Hero is investigating this one. Oh, it's complete. He's already investigated it. And I showed you the video, so I'm not going to show you that video again. But let's see what Steve had to say about this one. Complete unknown UAV. I was unable to contact the witness after several attempts, but I will revisit the case if I ever hear from the witness. From the photographic evidence alone, I would classify this as an unknown UAV, which he may be right, but boy, there's just something about that video that kind of said Starlink chain to me, or Starlink train. That's my take on it. But again, like Steve even says, if we get more evidence and more information, we can reopen it and we can add and we can change that if that's necessary. So case number 137920-U took place on June 20th of 2024 at 9:57 p.m. A spear was seen. Valley classification MA1, so maneuver of the first kind, took place in Garrison. Bright light orb suddenly appeared then left at a high rate of speed and then disappeared. Clouds were thin, not heavy enough to hide the object. Bright round shape orb appeared on Mille Lacs Lake, where there was a fishing launch at the same time. On 2 Mile Reef, orb was approximately 3/4 of a mile up and approximately 3/4 to a mile away. On bright moonlit evening, easy to see, UFO caught on security camera mounted on east side of house looking out over the lake. So there's a lot. So I've interviewed this guy. So there's a lot to unpack here, so it was his Ring camera that caught the video. And generally there was a rule in MUFON, there has to be a witness. So if it's just on a camera, there's no witness. But he and his wife were actually saw it at the same time. Excuse me. And hope the Ring camera caught it, and it did. So it's you're going to see a very bright object in there. You're going to think it's the sun, but he says that's the moon. So you're going to see the moon, and you're going to see the bright object go by pretty quickly. It's you can't miss it. It's very obvious. Lasts for a few seconds. This guy has a military background. He's got pilot training. He had a lot of really good credentials, so very credible, very reliable. And the thing about him too is, since this sighting, he's had another one that was really interesting. And then he also told me about another sighting he had back in 1968, which I thought was really compelling. So I encouraged him to submit both of those two to MUFON. So maybe we'll see them in a future What's Up in Minnesota. But for right now, we're working on this one. But he had two other interesting stories to tell me. I think this video is about 14 to 24 seconds long, but the object's only in like the first 5 or 10 seconds of it. So, but you can't miss it. I'd be interested to see what people think about it. I got to do a little more research. So let's see if I can find out what this is. So let me stop sharing. 137920. What it'll tell me here? Share. Share. So I thought, oh, it's going to tell me there. It's not that one. It's not that one. Oh, because they're moving around. That's what. Wait a minute. It's got to be one of these. I thought I pulled this one up. It's a good video. I really want you to see this one too. It's none of these. I thought I had this pulled up. So this might not be the most efficient way to do this. So it's not this one. I really want you to see it because it's a pretty cool video. I keep pulling the same one. Would it be? Oh, it's this one here. Yeah, this is it. Yes, this is the one. Okay, cool. So I'm going to play this one for you. Where did it go? It was right there. It's not sharing how I want it to share. Now behave and cooperate. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, hang on. Let me do this. Do this. And I can see Jan. Jan, wave if you can see this. Okay, you can see. Okay, so it's only going to happen like the first 5 or 10 seconds of the video, but he says that's the moon there, and that bright object on the horizon. He said that was the fishing reef or the fishing launch thing that's out there. So that's we've identified what that is. We've identified the moon, but you will see the object that he's referring to here within the first 5 to 10 seconds. You can't miss it. Yeah, so that's pretty obvious. It's there and it's gone. So yeah, that's we can watch it again. Let me stop this and bring it back. So we'll watch it one more time. So yeah. So he and his wife were in their bedroom. They just happened to be looking out at the lake at the same time. And it just so happened the camera caught it too. So it was very cool if they both caught it. So yeah, we're going to see if we can figure out what that is. So yeah, so let's go back. So that I thought was a very interesting one. I got 3 chats in the chat. Well, incredible picture. Okay, so um, okay, so yeah, we'll revisit that one once I determine. But really, really good, interesting interview, and hopefully he'll submit his other 2 cases. I'd like to have someone interview or investigate those as well. So. And this was 138002-U. This MUFON identified this as a case of interest. So, and Jared and Anna were both very interested in working on this one, so I let them both have it. This took place on July 31st, 2024 at 1:32 p.m. A sphere was seen, in Valley classification CE1, so close encounter of the first kind. It took place in Sabin, which is in Clay County. Good video on this one too. I'm hoping I can find the video on this one easier. So my son and I were driving around looking at houses when I first saw the silver chrome ball. So he had a pretty detailed description. Here's a segment of his description. I seen something speed across the road traveling from west to east that caught the corner of my eye. I immediately told my son to look at this silver chrome ball that had stopped and then moved at 90 degrees to the right, which would be back to the west, and then proceeded southeast at this time. So they got in their car, started chasing it down. So you're going to see the video. At first, you don't see it at all, and then I think you kind of see it over the corn crop, over the cornfield, and then I'm not sure if that's it, because then the picture kind of resolves and there's a water tower there, and that could have been the water tower that you're seeing. But then a few seconds later, you definitely see the object. You definitely see it moving. It's very obvious. It's very clear. So very interesting video. So we'll oh, and there's images too. So I'll show you the images first. So here's so this is what you're going to end up seeing this in motion. You'll end up seeing this in motion. And I think there's just 2 images. Yeah, so here's a close-up of it. So again, it's got that shadow underneath. It almost looks like there's like a little, I don't know, projection or exhaust or something underneath. Could be a camera thing. It's hard to say what that is, but I've got video on that too. So I want to show you the video on that. So case number 138002. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's see, 138002. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Okay. This should be it. It's an interesting video. It's a few minutes long, but we'll watch the whole thing. Yeah, 2.5 minutes. We'll check this out. And no F-bombs, I don't think. So we're safe on this one. So we don't see it yet. And there's going to be a cornfield. And you see a little ball over the cornfield. I'm not sure if that's it or not, but that might resolve to a water tower. You'll see what I mean when we get there. But they're now chasing this where they thought they saw it go. Now you see, I think that might be it, but that could be a water tower that you'll see in a second too. That might have been it. I don't know if you saw that or not. It was very, very brief. But now see, there's that water. So that's a water tower. As it resolves, you'll see that's actually a water tower when that slows down. So there's a water tower. But then they do actually catch the object again. So that first object, I'm not sure if that was water tower or not. There it is. Oh, and they put their front. There it is. Okay, you can zoom in on that. So. And then it fades, it drifts into the clouds. And once it's into the clouds, you don't see it again. So yeah, at this point, Now it's gone. Well, you still kind of see it there. Yeah, at this point, well, you do still see it. You do. Oh, no, it actually looks like it's inclining there a little bit, climbing a little bit. Cool. If they can't see it anymore, I'm stopping the video. So, all right. So, it sounds like it's still running. I mean, I need to shut that off. But anyways, um, so Anna and Jared are investigating that one. And we'll let you know when they complete it. We'll let you know what they find out. So the next case, we're going to wrap it up. We're a little over past 3 o'clock. I want to take our break by now, but we're really close to the end. So took place on August 30th, 2024, 5 p.m. Shape was an other, FB3, flyby of the third kind. Took place in Savage, flying in daylight. Looks like a flying squid. I do want to spend a little bit of time on this because I told you before at the symposium, they talked about squid-shaped craft and squid-shaped beings being on the rise. And so here we got a flying squid report. When MUFON sent this to us, they sent me a note saying, hey, we got a flying squid. Get as much detail as you can. We might want to highlight this at the symposium. We need to know what this is. I don't think it's going to be highlighted at the symposium. I don't think it's the flying squid. He says, I have no idea what it is. It's about the size of a passenger jet, maybe a meteor breaking up. I'm working on it right now. It's in progress. I was inclined to close it by now, but I'm not sure. I'm going to close it within the next couple of days. I sent a request to the witness for an interview. He responded back, said, oh, sorry, pretty sure it's a kite. And I said, okay, which is fine. I said, okay, so why do you think it's a kite? I said, did you drive out and see some, he said, I posted on Facebook and lots of people said it's a kite. So I'm going to show you the photograph. I'm going to show you zoomed in on the photograph, and then we'll show you some other stuff. And then, yeah, we'll just keep moving along. So here's his photograph. And so there's a building here at the bottom, another rooftop here. So we could actually find this location if we wanted to. It is an interesting object. Does look very squid-like. I cropped, and so this is what the witness submitted. Next, I'm going to show you what me cropping and zooming on this image. Me cropping and zooming on this image gets this. So definitely got the tentacles, got the kind of squid-shaped look. He said he thought it was a kite. So he said he didn't see any strings on it, though. He thought he would be able to see strings. He doesn't see strings. But I went on Amazon and I found this on Amazon. So I'm not sure that this very well could be what he's seen, but I really would like. I asked him to send me the links to the Facebook post where they were saying it was a kite because I like a little more data because it's very likely that this is it, but I want to take a little more time with it. So it's probably going to be closed out. This will not be highlighted at the symposium. We're not going to highlight a kite at the symposium next year. I'm pretty sure. So I'm working on that. I'll probably close it out with it within the next few days as an IFO, an identified flying object, a man-made object. I'm guessing that's where we're going to go with this. So case number 138369-U took place on September 6th, 2024 at 10 p.m. A sphere was seen, CE1, close encounter of the first kind in Winnebago. So orbs, glowing orbs, abrupt turns, and pop in and out of space in a blink. Here's a segment of their detailed description. There was a light floating above ground, but peeking back and forth, up and down. Then they would seem right there and then far across the field. I would walk toward one and it would keep the same distance. Like you couldn't gain on it. Then the ones in the sky were absorbing other lights and moving erratically. They were like bright stars. So I'm currently working on this one. There is a video on this one. So I'm going to show you the video real quick. I don't remember if it's a long video or not, but so I'm going to stop share 138869. Hope I can get better at finding these videos faster. That's not it. That's not it. Not it. This is it. Okay. Okay, 41 seconds. We're at more 5 after 3. I want to get our speakers, take a break, get our speakers up. So yeah, so these lights are interesting. Oh, there might be some F-bombs in this one too. So be aware if you're F-bomb sensitive. So seeing this one and the other one with the lights where they were saying it's happening many days in a row, that's always kind of an indicator to me too. If it's consecutive days, I usually start to think there's a man-made explanation to that because, but there are legit UFO sightings where they do happen consecutive days in a row and then stop for whatever reason. So that doesn't automatically rule it out, but it makes my antennas go up, if you will. So when I see that or hear that. So yeah, so that is that one. Stop sharing on that. And So I'm investigating that one and I have not done a interview on that one yet either. So once I do the interview, we'll get that one resolved. Hopefully we'll see that the completion of that one soon. So, and this is our last case. We'll be taking a break here in just a second. So case number 138452-U took place on September 13th, 2024. So just yesterday, this is the one that came in yesterday at 9 p.m. They saw it and they jumped on it. Star-like was a shape, valet classification MA1. So maneuver of the first kind took place in Bemidji. Saw one moving erratically, then more. So here's a segment of what they said. While she stood outside with me, I think he was with his wife, 7 or 8 stars moved in a circular pattern above us. Most came from the east by northeast. One of the 2 came from the west. They weren't moving in a straight line like the ISS, Starlink, or a plane. At one point, 3 of them stopped momentarily in the sky and made a triangle pattern before moving on. So I've assigned this to Steve Hero, and I don't think we've got any pictures or do we have anything on this? Well, we'll see. But Steve, I just assigned it to him this morning, so I don't know if he's even had a chance to look at it, but yeah, so that's a brand new one we just got in. So, and that's what's up in Minnesota. So that's the end of it. So thank you all for your patience. And so Marianne, Robb, and Dave Rich are presenting real encounters when law enforcement meets the unknown. So Marianne Robb is a 34-year veteran law enforcement officer in Arizona, assigned as patrol officer and a detective in various positions. Marianne is a MUFON Phoenix member, spent 7 years as a field investigator with the organization. Marianne is an instructor at the annual MUFON Field Investigator boot camp sessions held in Arizona and the MUFON Symposium. She teaches MUFON field investigators how to apply methods she learned in law enforcement to their UFO investigations. Now, Dave Rich is a 25-year law enforcement officer in Arizona. Dave started in patrol, then worked in the investigations unit as a gang detective, homicide and sex crimes detective, and narcotics detective, and as a school resource officer unit. Dave joined the Mutual UFO Network and worked as a field investigator. He's also an instructor for MUFON's Field Investigator Bootcamp in advanced interview techniques and evidence collection. So I've been going down to the symposium pretty consistently for the past few years and going to the field investigator training. So I've seen Marianne and Dave numerous times. I've really enjoyed their presentations. They work very well together. They're very polished. They're very down to earth, very relatable. And Dave didn't it's true. Dave didn't pay me to say that either. It's really true.
Shocking.
And then this year, not only did they do their field investigator training, they did a presentation for the symposium around a lot, because people say, well, if only police would step forward, we'd know it was real if police said something. They touch on why the police don't say anything. So, and just in case we're not clear, so when it's Marianne and Dave, Marianne is the looks, and well, Marianne's the brain too. She's the looks and the brain, and she's the looks, the brain, and the muscle. She's the looks, the brain.
I bring nothing to the table.
Dave helps. I think Dave helps is what. So
I carry her water when she needs to go places. That's pretty much it.
no. Yeah, so Dave helps. I've really enjoyed watching them. They're a lot of fun. They add some humor and stuff into their presentation. I'm really excited to see them. And if you want to too, what I recommend is in the upper right, you get a chance to see how you can view the participants. You can click from the Brady Bunch view I call to the speaker view, and that should put Marianne and Dave up front and center. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Minnesota MUFON. Please help me welcome Marianne, Robb, and Dave Rich.
We are so excited to be here with you guys today. I kind of wish instead of being on Zoom, we would love to be there right now, because I think it's still 105, 106 outside right now here in Arizona. So we would love to be in Minnesota right now. Well, folks, again, my name is Marianne Robb, and I was a police officer in Arizona for 34 years. All my time, I've worked various assignments in the PD, but my most favorite was patrol, because, you know, I'm out there under the stars or under the sky. I'm in my patrol car by myself. I have worked day shift, night shift. And the only bad thing is I've never seen anything that I could not explain. However, there are law enforcement officers and first responders all over this world that have seen things that they can't explain. And that's what we're going to talk about in our presentation today is why are they seeing things and why are they not talking about it? So let's get this thing started. I'd like to introduce you to my partner, Dave Rich.
How's it going, everybody? So like Tom said, I'm a 25-year veteran of the police department. I've worked in a variety of assignments from patrol to detectives, and then I ended my career working with alien life forms. I was a high school SRO, so you can't get much stranger and alien than high schoolers. So we got that going for us. But like Marianne said, we got together to create this organization called UAPPD. Our screen right here, we kind of wanted to dive a little bit into what UAPPD is and what our origins are and what we're about, and then talk about these stigmas that law enforcement and first responders in general are facing whenever they do encounter something that they can't explain. And then the way that we're going to wrap the presentation up is we have a number of stories that we're going to tell you about cases that we have already started working and looking into and gathering from the different officers and first responders who have provided them for us. So first screen here, just real quick little synopsis. There are over 800,000 law enforcement officers, agents, and deputies currently working in the United States. They work shifts that provide coverage 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They are out there every day. They are seeing things, but they're not explaining it or not talking about it. We're going to take this opportunity to explain why. And since we've started working with UAPPD, we kind of designed this mission statement that kind of ramps up and kind of concisely sums up what we're doing. And that is UAPPD is devoted to chronicling, investigating, and supporting officers who have encountered unknown experiences both during their tours of duty and their off-duty time. We are dedicated to finding the truth, helping officers negotiate the traumas of having these experiences, and reporting the discoveries in a safe manner for the officers and the public. And that's one of our big things is a lot of people kind of forget that officers are people too. So the same type of witness who witnesses a UAP or a cryptid or a ghost or something like that, that same level of trauma is also affecting officers because they are people too. They're seeing these things and they're confronted with those same feelings of, I don't know what that is. The thing that they have that the average person doesn't have is the duty to go into a situation. They're getting called there and they're supposed to establish peace. They're supposed to come in there and have the answers. And a lot of officers have a hard time when they get confronted with this because the reality is we don't have the answers to these things. And now people, the citizens are looking at you saying, hey, what is that? And we're left going, I don't know. And so that trauma of seeing these things affects these officers, and that's what we're here to try and kind of help them negotiate by giving them the opportunity to speak with us and speak about the topic in a safe environment. One of the things that differ with us versus like MUFON though, is we believe in this belief called the big three, that ufology, cryptozoology, and the paranormal are all linked, like this Venn diagram that we have here. There are overlaps in all of them. Some people believe it, some people don't believe it. We personally believe it. When you look at the different organizations, you see a lot of similarities. A great example is David Paulides. He's got the cryptozoology with the Missing 411. His last movie and book was the direct link between UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings and missing people in national parks. So you've got that link. You've got television shows like Terror in the Woods that are literally the link between cryptozoology and the paranormal. And the hardest one that we had to establish was, well, ufology and the paranormal, until I ended up having a friend of mine call me up one day and be like, hey, did you see a video on YouTube about these orbs? And I was like, oh, wait, orbs, do you mean like orbs flying in the sky or orbs like in a haunted house? And that was the moment when I realized, okay, well, there's our link between UFOs and the paranormal. There's some sort of orb flying around. So, you know, a little slow on the uptake, but I was able to pick it up. But we do believe in this design of like all three being related. And so that's why we at UAPPD don't just investigate UAPs, we also investigate these other topics as well. Which brings us to the big question, which is kind of the crux of what we're doing here today, talking to you, is transparency. That's what we want. We want officers, we want the government, we want people to come forward and say, hey, this is what we're finding. But what a lot of people don't realize is that with transparency, there comes a cost. The cost, though, isn't always what people think. A great example, like what we've been telling people, is everybody knows the story of Lonnie Zamora, pretty much. Everybody knows the story about Val Johnson, about Jim Blackwood, all law enforcement officers, very, very credible, very articulate, very knowledgeable, great cops who encountered stuff, and everybody knows about their stories. But nobody bothers to ask, well, what happened to them after they had their experience? And when you look at all three of those experiences, along with multiple other experiences, these officers' careers suffered after they were done with their encounter. Everybody always looks at it and like, hey, we know the story of Lonnie Zamora until the craft took off again from Socorro, New Mexico. But nobody says, hey, what happened to Lonnie a week later, a month later, a year down the road? That is the cost that we're talking about, and by establishing with our presentation what it takes to become a police officer and how dedicated you have to be to become a law enforcement officer or a first responder, you're going to understand what that cost is after one of us sees something and we have that moment where we have to weigh the option of, do we say something or is it safer to just keep your mouth shut? So we're going to launch into this now. I kind of got all the busy work out of the way. I'm going to turn it back over to this one.
All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what a law enforcement officer is. Well, you've got your local police, which is your city and town officers. You've got the sheriff, which is your county. State police is highway patrol. You've also got your federal, which is FBI, NCIS, DEA. And a lot of people don't know, but park rangers and game and fish and game wardens are also certified law enforcement officers. So let's talk about, what does it take to become a law enforcement officer? Well, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to pick what agency you want to work for. You're going to walk into this auditorium where you're going to start off with a written exam. Now, when you sit in there, that agency you're looking to work for is already going to look at your observation skills. That's the first thing they're going to look at. So what they do is they hand you a photo of, it could be a crime scene, or it could be somebody just sitting at Starbucks drinking a cup of coffee. You got about 15, 20 minutes to look at this photo. They take it away from you. Then they ask you 20 to 30 questions on, what did you just observe in that photo? So that's the whole beginning of becoming a law enforcement officer. You pass that, you then go and do a pre-employment evaluation. That is a medical with a doctor. You've got a psychological test you'll take, a physical agility test. You'll have an oral board, and you also have a polygraph. Past that, then you get to go to your police academy, a whopping 24 weeks of a police academy, which is in-depth training. You're going to learn laws of arrest. You're going to learn how to drive a car, shoot a gun. You're going to learn defensive tactics. Every little bit of information you need to become a law enforcement officer, you're going to learn in the next 24 weeks in the police academy. Congratulations, you passed the academy. You go back to your agency and you're thinking, okay, great, I'm going to get in a car and I'm going to go save lives and protect property. Well, not quite yet. Get back to your agency. You've got 2 weeks of post-academy. There, you're going to learn the agency you're working for. You're going to learn their radio codes, their way to write a report, and just learn the general town or city that you're going to be working in. After that, you do get handed, a set of keys. However, you're driving the car, you're answering the calls. But field training, you have a seasoned patrol officer next to you in the passenger seat, documenting every single thing that you do at that time. So you got 16 more weeks of training. Finally, after that 16 weeks of training, boom, you're now handed the set of keys in your patrol car. You get out there and you're a solo officer. So from the first day that you stepped into that auditorium to take that written test to the day that you got your set of keys and that you are the sole officer in your patrol car was over a year of training. Now you think, all right, great. I've had all my years of training. I'm going to get out there and, do my career, have a great time. Well, unfortunately, that's not the way it is. I did 34 years. Dave did 25 years. Every 3 to 4 months, you are doing advanced officer training. So as a police officer, from that first day to the day that you retire, there is always some type of training that you are going to do. And like we say, you never stop learning in this job.
Okay, so I guess let's get into the meat of this now. Now that you understand a little bit of what an individual has to go through to become a police officer, you'll hopefully kind of understand a little bit more about what there is to lose. And the stigmas, this slide here basically sums it up in a nutshell. If they're seeing things, why are they not reporting it? So what we did is we kind of did a deep dive, looked at experiences that some of us may have experienced, things like that, and we came up with these stigmas that we've found seem to be the recurring theme. Because originally, when UAPPD first was formed, at the time it was Marianne and Alejandro Rojas talking about different interactions with law enforcement, and they kind of came to the conclusion like, hey, we got police officers that are working 24 hours a day, they've got to be seeing stuff. Why are we only hearing about a very small amount of these stories, like the Lonnie Zamoras and the Val Johnsons? And so Marianne remembered an encounter that I had and kind of spun off. And they called me and I was like, well, I can tell you exactly why. And that's what these stigmas represent. So the first one that we're going to talk about real quick is just the flat out believability factor. When an officer sees something, whether it be a ghost or a UAP up in the sky, landing in a field, something like that, everybody has their own internal monologue due to their training and their experiences of what they find believable and what they find just too out of there, just too hard to buy. And when you respond to these calls, again, you have the citizens, the people that called 911 and said, hey, I have an alien in my backyard, I have a UFO that's flying over the house. They're calling us for a reason. They're calling us because they need somebody to show up who's going to maintain order and ultimately make them feel safe. So we come rolling up to the scene, we see something in the sky, and we can't explain it. So we'll put up a false front. Oh yeah, we're looking into it. We're contacting the Air Force. We're contacting the local airports. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Don't worry. But in the back of our minds, we're also kind of processing that as well, and looking at it and going, what is that? And sometimes it just becomes that believability factor of this is just, it can't be real. It's just too big to be real. And we end up falling into this cognitive dissonance type situation where your own internal monologue says, I believe that these certain things are real. Now I'm encountering something that I can't believe is real, and our brains have a hard time buying it. So the same thing happens to people that witness things and they're just, I just can't, it can't be real. Officers face that as well. So again, that's just the first stigma where it's just, we show up, we see it, we're like, this just can't be real. It's just too unbelievable. So the second one that we have is the work follow-up repercussions. What we talk about is, as a police officer, Marianne and I can both attest to it, anybody else who's been in law enforcement or even firefighter, first responder can attest to, you become a family. We call this the band of brothers and sisters effect. You go into these situations and you have spent all of that time training and all that time working together and all that time in having, positive and negative reactions and interactions. You get to know everybody's families, you get to know their spouses, you get to know their significant others, and you grow together and it almost builds this family type atmosphere. And let me ask you guys this. I know normally when I ask this, I have people raise their hand. I can't really have everybody raise their hand, but who here has a sibling, a brother or a sister? Just about everybody, raise your hand if you got a brother or sister. And I bet every one of you, your brothers and sisters, you guys never picked on each other, right? There was never a moment where you would like look at each other and kind of make fun or I'm not touching you or anything like that. That never happens, right? So yes, that happens. And now that family bond that we have that's created and forged in the whole, I will run into a burning building with you, I will take a bullet for you, now transcends into the locker room and the briefing room of where we pick on each other all the time, except now instead of picking on your brother, you're picking on another person who has a taser and pepper spray and all these other little toys and gadgets and stuff like that. And we go into these stressful situations. And so everybody starts joking around. And all of a sudden the jokes, you're the guy who saw Bigfoot come walking out of the woods, and now everybody's like, calling you Sasquatch hunter, and hey, you're on the Sasquatch patrol, or hey, where's your tinfoil hat? Hey, you get bumper stickers on your locker that say I break for Martians and things like that. These pranks, they start to, just like when your brother or sister was picking on you, it's the same thing. Eventually it starts to get old, and you're tired of being that subject of all of the pranks. So as an officer who maybe sees something, you saw the last guy go through all of the ribbing and all of the public mockery, whatever you want to call it. And you realize, wow, if I say something right now, that's going to be me. I'm going to be the one receiving all that. And I don't want it, because you see your other fellow officers going through it, and you're like, I don't want to be that guy. So at that moment, you have those work follow-up repercussions that may start as jokes or playful banter, stuff like that, friendly banter. And it becomes something that it's like, it starts affecting your career and whether you want to be at work or not. So at times you might see something and be like, you know what, I don't want to go down that road. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm not gonna say anything. And if nobody knows about it, I'm not gonna be the one that they're making fun of. And those ones are rough, but they're still not dangerous yet. So now we're gonna kind of go into some of the things that actually could be threats to the welfare and the safety and the career of these officers. So this next one is the strained work relationship. The first one that we have on the list there is, this is my backup, question mark, question mark. As an officer, I don't think anybody is confused by the fact that we go into very dangerous situations. It's part of the job. We know it going in. We're going into violent encounters. We're going into dangerous situations, domestic violence situations, subjects with weapons, things like that. When you go into those situations, you have to be on your A game. You have to be paying attention, because we get trained through all that training that Marianne talked about. We get trained to go into these situations and perform at an expected level. If her and I go into a room together, because we're both going to clear a room, I can tell you right now, just because of the way we're sitting, I'm going to peel right, she's going to peel left, because of the way that we are. We don't have to say it. We know where we're standing. We know what we're going to do. I know who, if I encounter somebody, I know I'm going to challenge him. She knows she's going to take a cover role while I'm the contact. We don't ever have to talk about it. We just default into those modes that we know. Now, that's all fine and good until you show up at the hostile individual, a violent person with a gun, and the guy that shows up is the guy who just saw Bigfoot. You get out of the car, you start looking, you start going, oh, wait, so this is my backup? And now, instead of watching that guy that I'm supposed to be watching, in the back of my mind, am I thinking, is he here with me? Is he really see what's going on? Or does he see something that I don't believe in? I don't, that can't be real. And you start getting your attention divided. So now, instead of paying attention to what I'm supposed to be paying attention to, which is the threat, I'm now kind of worried about what is my partner doing. And so we know that. The officer that went through that situation, who may have seen something, realizes that when I show up and back up somebody else on a call, that officer is not paying attention to me. He's paying attention to what he's supposed to be paying attention to. He's splitting his attention between me and what he's supposed to be doing. And it will start creating this thing that we call riding solo. You'll start getting these calls and be like, hey, there's a subject with a potential weapon. Do you want a 906? Do you want a backup? And as an officer, I might go, no, I'll advise. Why? Because you start going down that road of, I don't want to have to be in a situation, because if his attention is divided worrying about what I'm going to see, I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want me to get hurt. You know what? Instead of dealing with this and having another person there that's not with it, I'll just go by myself. And so officers will start going into these situations because I don't want to hear the playful banter, because it's not playful anymore. I don't want their attention divided. I'm just going to go by myself. And now we have officers that are going into situations that they should have a second officer with, but they're going by themselves. And they're like, I'll deal with it myself. I'll deal with it by myself. And they're going into these dangerous situations because they would rather do that than have to deal with the ramifications of dealing with the officer's split attention, because if he gets hurt, and that's the nightmare scenario for this officer. If something happens and it goes south, and it may not even be my fault, but that other officer gets hurt, everybody's gonna look at me and go, well, that's because he was out there with the Sasquatch hunter. He wasn't out there. He's not paying attention. He's too busy looking for UFOs. So as officers, we'll start thinking, you know what, I'll go by myself. I'll deal with myself, because then it's just me that I have to worry about. So this is, you can see now where it's starting to actually become dangerous for officers. So the next one transitions from that physical danger. The next couple ones transition to the career danger that we have. And that first one is the giant one, is questioned credibility. As a police officer or an investigator of anything, everything that you do, every case that you investigate, comes down to two things: what evidence you can collect and your credibility as being the person who collected it. So if your evidence is great and your credibility is great, that equals success. You go into court, you have the evidence, you have the credibility, so the evidence that you collected, the jury believes that you got, and you're golden. That's what is expected of us. That is how we operate. If people start questioning our credibility, like, oh yeah, oh hey, that's the guy that saw Bigfoot, you know what, don't send him to that call. We don't want him going to that call because this could be a major case. We don't want it to screw up our case. So the detective might go, hey, I don't want that officer on my scene. He's over here at my scene and trying to gather evidence. I don't want him here because he's the guy that saw a UFO. I don't want to deal with that. So we want him out of there. So our credibility as officers, it's literally, I would say in some cases, even more important than the evidence we collect, because your evidence is great, but if somebody doubts your ability to get it or doubts your honesty when it comes to gathering it, the evidence is worthless. Your credibility is that linchpin that links everything together. All the work that you've done, whether it's gathering witness statements or gathering physical hard evidence or video evidence or audio evidence, it all comes down to, do I believe that you were honest when you collected that evidence and did it in a justifiable, honest way and presented it? Is it good? Is it what we call righteous? Is it righteous evidence? That is hamstrung when people start questioning their credibility. If your credibility is tainted, everything that you do from that point on gets looked at differently. And that's going to end up causing what our next stigma is, which is the true threat to their career. Like we said here, all of the stigmas present a clear threat to their career in one form or the other, but this is probably the one that causes the most heartburn or heartache with officers. And it's the culmination of this entire thing. Basically, if your credibility is tarnished, your ability to be viewed as being above reproach is not there. You go to court, you're the guy who saw Bigfoot. Now you could go to court a month after you had your sighting, and you're on the stand talking about a stolen vehicle, something that has nothing to do even remotely with what you were involved in when you saw the UAP or ran into the haunted house and dealt with a ghost or saw Bigfoot come out of the woods. But say, for example, you saw a UFO. A UAP flying and landed in a field. Now you're on the stand for something that has nothing to do with a stolen vehicle. You got the guy there, you got dead to rights, you got everything you need to clear up this case. The defense attorney is going to look at you and he's going to say something like this, because things get said in court and then the judge hits a gavel and says, somebody yells objection, the judge hits the gavel, tells the jury, you're going to disregard what was said. But the reality is when that is said, it's said. And once the words are out, you can't take them back. And even if you look at the jury and say, hey, you're not allowed to pay attention to what was just said, they still heard it. So here's the problem. The defense attorney is going to look at me and I'm the guy who just saw a UFO land there. Now I'm on the stand for something completely different. And he's going to say something that's going to sound an awful lot like this. He's going to be like all, looking in the suit and everything. And he's going to go, so, officer, real quick, did you see a UFO? Just out of curiosity, did you see a UFO? So now I'm sitting on the stand and I have already put my hand on a Bible and said that I swear that I'm going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. And now I have this defense attorney asking me if I saw a UFO because I went around telling people I saw a UFO. What do I say? I can't say no. I took an oath that says I'm going to tell the truth. I can't perjure myself. So I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say, yes, I saw a UFO. And then the prosecuting attorney is going to jump up and be like, objection, he's going to throw his objection out there. But like we said, the words are already out there. The defense attorney is banking on one thing. He is banking on one of the 12 people in that jury pool was not smart enough to get out of jury duty. And then they're going to go back in there and they're going to have their deliberation. And that guy who wasn't smart enough to get out of jury duty is going to laugh and say, do you believe that officer? He saw a UFO. And he's going to start laughing about it. He's going to start making fun of it. And then the other 11 jurors in there are going to be like, Oh, yeah, that's crazy. Even though I saw one like last week, hey, I don't wanna, because nobody wants to be looked at as though they are crazy, for lack of a better term. So now the jury comes back because that one juror who couldn't, who didn't believe it, thought that we were, lost our mind, convinced the others to not get a conviction. So we come out, we lose the case. So now that defense attorney, because defense attorneys only have one friend, and that's other defense attorneys, because who likes defense attorneys? Nobody. So that defense attorney goes and tells his friends who are defense attorneys, hey, you ever get a case with that officer, ask him if he saw a UFO, you're gonna win your case. So now maybe it happens a second time, maybe it happens a third time, maybe it never happens again, but the prosecutor finds out about it. So now the prosecutor looks at you and says, I can no longer use you in court. Because if I put you on the stand, they're gonna blow the case by asking you if you saw a UFO. So now the prosecuting attorney is gonna go back to the chief and be like, hey, this officer that you got, I can't use him. I can use him for a shoplifting case. Because if they ask for a jury trial, we've lost because they're gonna bank on that. So now the chief of police is looking at me going, why am I paying you? You can't investigate any crimes, you can't make any arrests, you can't write any tickets, I can't use you because the prosecuting attorney can't use you. So what am I keeping you around for? So all of a sudden, my career starts to look like, oh yeah, it's over. And it's all because 6 months ago, I saw something I couldn't explain and I said something about it. So what it boils down to is, it's not so much what I saw, it's my retelling of it that causes the threat to my career. So as officers, we know about this stuff. We think about it in the back of our minds. This is a threat to our career. Our jobs, it takes a lot to become a police officer. It's not something that is taken on lightly. So the threat to it becomes, oh, wow, I just saw something I can't explain. Do I want to say something about this and potentially have my career end? Then I have to look at my family and my friends. I got a family that I'm taking care of, a wife and kids. I have my parents who are proud of the work that I've done. I've got siblings that are proud of me for what I've done. Now I'm gonna have to look at them and go, yeah, I just lost my job as a police officer, a firefighter, an EMT. Well, why'd you lose your job? Oh, because I saw something and now it opens up this big can of worms. And I can't go to another agency because if my agency lets me go because I'm not good enough to be used on the stand because the prosecutor says I can't use you, I can't go to any other agency because they're gonna ask, well, why are you no longer working at your first agency? Well, it's because the prosecutor can't use me because I saw a UFO. And they're gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna take that on. No, you can, get used to asking people if they'd like fries with that, because you're not gonna get another job doing what you planned on doing. So now you have all of these skills, all of these talents, and you can't use them in any situation. You can't get the job that you wanted to do because, again, I still like to think that people become first responders because ultimately they want to help people. And now your entire career is over because of not what you saw, but because of the fact you said something about it. But the number one reason, because we're all type A personalities. That's what it really boils down to. As a police officer, you have to have a type A personality because you're the guy who's literally going to walk into somebody else's living room and be like, I don't agree with what you did. Guess what? You're putting on a new pair of bracelets and I'm going to go lock you in a cage somewhere. You have to have a level of type A personality there. And one of the things that are notorious for type A personalities is we like to know what's going on. So we roll up to a scene and we see something that we can't explain. Yeah, it just doesn't jive. We don't like that. We like to know what's going on. We like to have a good, it's literally the interview with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith on the park bench in Men in Black 1. You had a good beat on things. And 15 minutes ago, you just found out we're not alone in this universe. And that's a direct example of this type A personality is when you're confronted with that, yeah, you have a hard time getting past it. So when I said at the beginning, Marianne and Alejandro Rojas were talking about why do law enforcement officers not want to talk about what they're seeing and stuff like that, it basically stems from all of this. again, like what we have here is the fallout for being too honest. It's the fallout that you face for telling the truth. And as officers, sometimes we have to take that moment and stop and think, what is the ramification of me saying something? It's not what everybody thinks. They all think it's part of this grand conspiracy. Oh, police officers, they're part of the government. They're part of we don't want to have disclosure. We don't want to tell anybody what's going on. As law enforcement officers, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with this, the threat that we perceive to our career. Because like, people don't want to come forward and it's like, oh, I don't want to come forward because of the men in black or the government's going to show up and try and say something. Let's be honest. Do you think I'm scared if the government shows up at my house, like they're going to do something to me? I'd be the one that they would call to do something. So it's like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, bring it on. I'll have one of my coworkers show up and we'll have a nice conversation, see what happens. But the reality is the threat that we face isn't we're scared of what the government's going to do. The reality is we're scared of what society's going to do. Because you guys are the ones that make up the jury panel. You guys are the ones that have the ability to walk into that jury pool and say, that officer's crazy. He saw a UFO. Clearly everything that he's done here is ridiculous. He's out of his mind. That's the thing that we have to actually be concerned with. It's not the government, it's society. And we actually see this in some of the interviews that we've done, because like Marianne and I have been working we created UAPPD about 1.5 years ago, and we have been gathering stories all over the country, believe it or not even just the country, the world. We've been getting stories from other countries. And the reality is it's the same, except for when we encounter officers who are on Native American reservations. We had a couple of Res PD guys come here and tell us stories about stuff that they did, and the stories that we're going to talk about. It's the stories that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes here. These are it's a direct result of their stories. And when we talk about the fallout that one of us may have faced when we had an encounter while we were working and had to get called upstairs and deal with the ramifications, when we talk about that, these two officers looked at us and were like, what are you talking about? And we explained the stigma, like, dude, you can't talk about that. Nobody's going to believe you. Look at it, it's a threat to your career. And they're like, we talk about this stuff all the time. And the reality is it's because on the res, in the Native American culture, all of these things that we're encountering, whether it be star people or cryptids like skinwalkers, things like that, or spirits, that's part of their culture. That is an integral part of from when they're babies all the way up to adults, they are taught about them. They are real and they are known and they are accepted by their entire culture. And just like the community believes in it, it allows the first responders to also have that belief. So part of what we're trying to do here with UAPPD is to help society understand that officers are seeing these things and help make it so that when an officer does see something like this, they can come forward and talk and not have to fear what the ramifications will be. Because if the society starts to believe this more, it becomes more mainstream for us. And we believe it is going that direction, but not quite there yet, not in these circles. If it gets to that point, officers are now going to be able to come forward and say the things that they saw without fear of repercussion. And that way we can get more truth. And the reason we can get that is because these are highly trained investigators that are seeing things and just keeping their mouths shut. These are cases that they're getting that are not being investigated any further than, wow, yeah, I saw that. Okay, I'm just going to go now. There is tons of information that we could gather from these stories if we can get them out, but it's not safe for them to say it yet. And that's what we're trying to do, is trying to establish that safe zone where these officers can tell us these stories. We let the officers dictate how much information they want to give us about themselves, and then we run with the stories the best we can. It could be maybe it's something that we can't follow up, and all we're doing is gathering the story, getting it out there to help move that needle closer to acceptance by society. But sometimes it's cases where we can actually jump in a truck, grab a video camera, get out there and start doing some digging ourselves and actually try to come up with an answer or a result.
All right.
Are you okay? 'Cause you've been
I
acting
know,
out
I
there.
apologize, guys. I have no idea why I started.
That's why I just kept talking, because I was like, if she's dying next to me, if I just keep talking, you'll know.
Sure,
what's
sure,
going
sure,
on
right,
this side
right.
of the room.
No, the thing is, the microphone's here, so you probably heard everything. Before we start with our really cool cases that we have, Tom or Jer, I know you told me to switch on a share volume or voice. The problem is I didn't do that when I did the share screening. We do have a couple of videos. Is there a way I can go back and just make sure that is on now, or what can we do on that, or just wing it?
You should be able to, you can stop share.
Okay. Let's do that real fast.
Okay. And then click the green share button and the box pops up.
Okay,
And when that box pops up, there should be
Share
a
sound.
button.
There you go, share sound right there. Yeah, there
perfect,
you
got
go.
it.
You see it? Okay.
Optimize video clips. No, we don't want that.
Oh,
It should be share sound. So
Outstanding. Thank you
Cool.
so much for that, because when you get into a story, you get everything set, and then you can't hear anything. And it's
been
like,
there, been there. So
all right.
oh. All right, so let's talk about our first case that we have. I guess yeah.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Boom.
First case we're going to talk about happened in June of 2013. The area was Kayenta, Arizona. Now, Kayenta, Arizona is up on the northern Arizona on the Navajo reservation. The area is pretty much between Arizona and the Utah border. The parties involved were going to be EMTs from the Sacred Mountain Medical Center and also the Navajo Police Department. So the facts of this case is on middle of June of 2013, there were EMTs working for the Sacred Mountain Medical Department. My witness, who is an EMT, received a phone call from her husband, who was working at a hotel just down the street, says, "You need to go outside right now. There is something in the sky and I don't know what it is." So my witness goes outside, looks up, and just over this area called Black Mesa, she sees this flying object, this humongous flying object. It's black in color. She described it as a stingray shape. And it was huge, and it was slowly moving toward them where their office was in the Kayenta trailer park. Now, this is just showing a quick picture of, that is Black Mesa, which is right behind the Navajo Police Department. The witness further describes the stingray-shaped UFO, or I should say object, that's as big as you saw the mesa. The mesa is probably a good mile and a half wide, long. This thing is covering the mesa. So as again, it's going slowly toward her and the trailer park, she runs back into her office, grabs her partner, who is fast asleep in a bunk, says, "Get up, get up." She actually drags her partner out of the bunk. Well, the partner's thinking they had a call for service. So she runs out and she stands on the porch of their little office at the trailer park. And as they're standing there, she has a couple of explicit words like, "Oh my gosh, Batman, what is that?" A little harsher than that. While she's looking up because she's just baffled what she is seeing. Well, as they're all standing there, the partner has very fine hair. So her hair is standing straight up underneath this object. This object's now moved up over the trailer park, and it's just basically hovering there. And the partner's hairs go straight up, and they're playing with it, they're moving it, they're trying to pat it down, and this thing is just, going straight up and down, and they're kind of laughing about it at the time. This is just showing some pictures of the actual trailer park where this craft came over. Now, my witness said that this object, the craft, was over the area for approximately an hour, and they were all under there just looking at it. The airport is located just down the street from the trailer park, so they were actually able to see the runway lights flickering on and off like crazy while this object was over them. They also said that there was two Navajo police officers that were living at the trailer park at the time. They were outside, and they were also standing there watching in amazement of this thing over them, just hovering over them. They did observe that underneath this object, they noticed that there was either steam or smoke coming from underneath. Both the law enforcement police officers that were there, the EMTs that were there, they were trying to take pictures of this object with their cameras, with their cell phones. Nothing would come out on the camera, cell phones, anything. Nothing would appear of this object. Also, they had their police radios with them and scanners. There was so much chatter from the dispatching officers. We had 911 calls for this and 911 calls. There were people all over the area. There's Highway 160 and 163, where people were literally stopping on the freeway or on the highways, getting out of their cars and looking up and looking at this object. Now, after, like I said, about an hour or so that this was in the area, my witness says that this craft quickly moved off to about the northeast toward Monument Valley. Now, when I asked about how we know how big it was, but about how far off the ground did she believe it was, and she said about 300 feet off the ground and absolutely no sound. Again, as it was going over, the lights on the runway area of the airport were flickering, going crazy. Also, there was a report of a sheep fence that fell over. Now, hopefully there were no sheep there, and we had a massive, stampede, yes, of sheep. But it was just this object going over did cause some damage to the area of Kayenta. Now, one of the things I did is, matter of fact, talking about MUFON, this case came from Arizona MUFON. The caseworker that was doing this case was trying to get a hold of people involving in this case. They got the initial report, but they were trying to get witnesses to come forward and give their stories about it. Unfortunately, because it was law enforcement, first responders, they weren't really getting a whole lot of cooperation. So they knew about us. We were MUFON Field Investigators at the time. They says, hey, you're UAPPD, maybe you can talk to these folks and see if, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm not sure why I've got this little cotton ball in my throat. See if they'll talk to you. Well, the witness I did talk to said, I won't talk to you on the phone. I won't do a Zoom meeting, but I will talk to you in person. Well, as soon as I hung up the phone, I called Kayenta, got the first hotel room I can get. Needless to say, I went straight up there and I did talk to the witness in person. She did take me to the area of where this all occurred. And this is a little bit quick interview of her that I did at the time.
It came out from there. Slowly, it was moving right here, over here, slowly over the airport and over the trailer park.
Would you say the southwest area? Kind of coming this way?
Yeah.
And it was traveling basically northeast.
It came up further, kind of like the whole thing came out and then went this way. Kept going over this way, over the rodeo grounds, over the airport, and then towards the where the trailer court is. I'll show you where the trailer.
So just a little follow-up on this case is that talking about, remember I was telling you about the partner that came outside and she was underneath it and her hair was straight up. Well, we kind of joke about that and they were joking at the time. However, she was showing signs of radiation poisoning for about 4 years after that incident happened. She had to quit being an EMT and she had to get medical assistance for approximately 4 years after that. as of today, I talked to her and luckily, thank goodness, she's doing fine. She got that out of her system. But about 4 years after that incident, she did have the radiation poisoning. Also, my witness told me as of even today, they are still seeing things up there on the Navajo Reservation in Kayenta area and the Monument Valley area. And talking about that, I'd like to talk about my second case. This case actually happened a little bit, well, just recently, November of 2023. It was late night. Again, it happened off of Highway 163, the turnoff of Monument Valley. And again, the parties involved were EMTs from the Sacred Mountain Ambulance. Same witness. I went up there and not only did she tell me the Kayenta case, but she has another case that, of course, in November. This one occurred, like I said, is Monument Valley. This is just a cool picture of the east and west mitten that is down there in Monument Valley. Again, for folks, I know you're in Minnesota and all, Monument Valley is on the Arizona-Utah border, almost, not quite, but almost near the Four Corners area. Ever get a chance to come out this way, Monument Valley is the most amazing. Unfortunately, when I was there, it was cloudy, but it is really one of the most amazing sights I have ever seen. Facts of this case is our EMT crew were en route to a call, the medical assistance call, off of Highway 163. As they're en route, dispatch calls and cancels the call. Well, as they're going, they've got a huge ambulance that they have to try to turn around, and it's only a 2-lane road. So they decided they're going to go up to the turnoff to Monument Valley, which is wider, and they were able to make a wide turn to make the U-turn. They pulled off the side of the road because they were waiting for one of the Navajo police officers to come over. They were going to quickly talk about something. As they are sitting there on the side of the road, the partner in the passenger seat is looking off into Monument Valley near the area of El Capitan, which is a mountainside. That's a mountain that's in Monument Valley, way off in the distance. And he tells my witness, goes, "Hey, what's over there?" Well, they both look over that way and they see these lights dancing in the sky over near El Capitan. And they're like, "What in the world is that?" Well, my witness says it looked like fireflies. There were so many little lights that were just dancing around. So what was really neat is the passenger, the partner, decided to take out his phone and try to videotape, and he zoomed in the best he can. Now, because the sighting only lasted about a minute, he got about 17 seconds, unfortunately, of video. I'm going to play this twice. It's going to be really hard to see, but because he focused in, I can't use a pointer, so sorry about that. But the mountain that's right smack dab in the middle, that's El Capitan. And it's going to be kind of hard to see, but this is what they were able to capture that was flying around. Again, like I said, I'll play this twice for you. You can start seeing one, but if you look down right on El Capitan, you can see little tiny white lights. Let me do that. See if I can do that. And let me try that. Okay. Again, that's the best that they were able to get, but they were able to see a little bit of light. So they couldn't believe it. It was absolutely amazing what they were able to at least even capture that little bit. The follow-up is it was January of 2024. Like I said, I spoke to that witness. She says, "I'll talk to you in person." Boom. I went up to the area. She was the one that took me over to Kayenta, showed me that. Then she took me to Monument Valley and gave me this story. Again, she reiterated that there are sightings almost every day, every week in this area, the Navajo Reservation. We were planning on going up in like June and doing a sky watch in the area. However, it's like Arizona, it was still 108, 110 degrees, so we weren't able to do that. So we're hoping maybe in January, February of 25, we'll go up there and we'll do some sky watches, and we'll have our investigating equipment and see what we can come up with ourselves. Now, again, she agreed to do a quick little interview. This is the turnoff to Monument Valley. Again, she didn't want to be identified, but she was gracious enough to give me a little blip. This is the little blip of my interview that I did with her.
We saw that light afterwards. And then there was three of they looked like fireflies, but I think they were pretty big, flying around. They were moving pretty quickly too.
Were they pretty much as far as those mountains right there? Did they come any closer to you while you were sitting here?
Just up here.
Just up here? Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
you guys
watching
were,
from here. We were parked over here.
okay, and you were in the ambulance, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were
Us
parked right
and
there.
a police officer.
All right, and like I says, is that it's amazing that she said this is happening all the time up there.
All right, so real quick, I want to go over a couple of incidents that happened. Now, these ones aren't UAP sightings. So like I said at the beginning, UAP PD, we stand for unidentified anomalous phenomena, not unidentified aerial phenomenon, because we believe that these sightings that are being seen aren't just craft in the sky. There's also entities, there's also spirit beings, there's cryptids, there's all sorts of stuff. What we do is our big crux is we want to get the stories from first responders, depending on what they are. So the next couple of incidents that I want to go over, I believe there's 5 of them, all take place. So when we were interviewing those officers from the Gila River Police Department, the ones that we were talking about, the stigmas, and they were like, we don't experience those stigmas because we're on the res. We had 3 officers that we talked to. Between those 3 officers, they gave us 6 different stories. Of those 6 stories, 4 of them took place at this mission on Santa Cruz Road over in Levine that we refer to as the Santa Cruz Mission. That's not the real name of it because the mission, which is like a church, is still in use. And on Sundays, people still go there for services and stuff like that. But it's in a very unique spot where it's on the res and it's kind of off by itself. But these stories, everything takes place kind of at this mission. And so we kind of gathered all these stories together. And like I said, the case started with the Gila River officers, which you see the patch there on the left side. But then we thought, what a great idea. We should probably go out and do an investigation at this place. So of course, a couple of us jumped into a truck and decided to go out there and do it. And the last story we're going to talk to you about is what happened when we were out there. So it starts off again, the Santa Cruz Mission is located on the Gila River Indian tribe lands. It's in Levine, Arizona, which is basically south and a little bit west of Phoenix. Almost directly south, just slightly to the west. This mission that we're talking about, that we refer to as the Santa Cruz Mission, it does have a name, but again, we don't want to give out the name. But that's a picture of the mission right there. It has a history of paranormal sightings that originate all the way back to when the mission was founded. And it was founded a very, very long time ago. So that real quick, again, like there is a picture of the mission itself. And as you notice, this is a different angle. And it's important because as you can see, it comprises basically 3 structures, we'll call it. The one that you see in the foreground, kind of off on the left side of the screen, is the actual church part of the mission itself. The building that's kind of off to the right, a little bit back, actually has a covered patio behind it. That's what was referred to as the annex. And then that little thing in the front, it's like a little circle and it has a cross on it. That was actually a well, because when this mission was first formed, there was no running water leading to it or anything like that. They actually had a well. Now in modern times, they have capped that well. They kind of turned it into an area where they have the cross because it is a Catholic mission. So they kind of use it for that. This entire complex is surrounded by a chain link fence. It has a gate on the front. This picture is taken from just inside that chain link fence. There's a gate on the front side and a gate on the back side. The reason that it's surrounded by the fence, like I said, is it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. They have services on Sundays there, but the rest of the week there's nobody there. So because it's kind of out by itself, they chain the fence up, they leave it locked up during the week. There's a lot of activity and stuff that happens there as far as like kids kind of playing. But the first story we want to talk about is case number 1. We actually had an officer tell us that in their post-academy class, now Marianne kind of told you about this. As an officer, you go to the academy, then you go to the post-academy. The post-academy is a couple week-long session where you're learning the stuff that is specific for your location. They were instructed that if you drive down Santa Cruz Road past this mission, which is a dirt road, you are instructed in the class to flip up the rear view mirror so that you cannot see the back seat. And the reason for it is if you don't, you may see red eyes in the back seat of the car. If you see those red eyes, you have to immediately go contact your supervisor, and they have to take you to a medicine man for a ceremony to sever the attachment of what the entity was that globbed onto you while you were driving by. So I know this kind of sounds like a little odd, and what kind of story is this? It's kind of really quick and to the point. But I want you guys to think about this for a second. Understand the ramifications of what we're saying. This is a police agency that has a policy of what you are to do if you see the disembodied red eyes in the back of your car. So this isn't guys talking and joking around in the locker room. This is actually something that is instructed to the officers during their post-academy class. Now, as a police officer, that's huge, because if a policy is written, it's been approved by different entities so that it's true. That means that there were entities, authority figures that said, we believe that this is real, to the point that we are going to make a policy and teach it to our officers in the post-academy class because we don't want them to suffer from the ramifications of what's going on here. So that, to me, is huge. And unless you've worked in an agency, like a government agency like that, some people might not understand how big that is, but that is huge, because that is acknowledgement from the agency that there is something major going on there. So that's just a real quick story that we have there. Second story, same mission. We had an officer that was parked in the parking area in front of the mission, so just outside the fenced area. They would write reports there. There's actually one telephone pole that has a light on it. Other than that, there's lights on the back of the mission under that awning that come on, but then there's a light in the front. They have officers go there so that they can write reports and stuff like that, just to have a presence out there when there's nobody around. So it's late at night. This one officer that we're talking with, he ends up going there to write some reports. So he's sitting in the parking lot, he's writing reports, he doesn't think much of it, and all of a sudden he feels his vehicle shake, like somebody is outside pushing it. So he turns on all the lights, looks around, starts looking around, trying to see who's shaking the car. And there's nobody there. And he's like, so he stops and he thinks for a little bit, he's like, that's kind of weird. Maybe it's nothing, maybe, I'll go back to writing. So he goes back to writing thinking that it's nothing. And then the vehicle starts shaking violently. Now it's like really moving back and forth. So he turns on the lights, doesn't see anything, but he gets out of there. Because again, even though we're cops, at times we don't like being in certain places, so we're gonna go. So he takes off down this dirt road all the way to the main highway, which is probably about 1.5 to 2 miles down the road. And there's this Chevron station. So he pulls off into the Chevron station, because of course he wants to be where there's lights and stuff like that. Gets out of the car, and he turns and looks, and on the back corner of the car, he sees small handprints on the right rear passenger side window of the vehicle that look like somebody was shaking it. Now, he mentioned that these handprints were very small. And the reason for that is there is a belief in Native American culture that the officer told us about, of these people or these entities called little people. They are a race of beings that the Native Americans believe exist in the area that are miniature humans. So they're shaped like regular humans, but they are smaller than regular humans, only about 3 feet tall. They are known to live underground, and there is a rumor or a speculation, legend or lore that one of the areas where these little people can actually come up out of the ground is right by this mission. And the thing that about these little people is the legends behind them is that they are like kind of mischievous, like they play tricks, they play pranks, maybe like shaking a car. But the reason that they're doing it is the pranks get progressively worse until it ends up with somebody getting hurt or killed. And they are known to, in the culture, they're known to lure children away from their parents, to do harmful things to them, to continue doing these pranks and like the Fae. I think there's a Fae creature in Irish mythology that is very similar to this, where they play pranks until they become so violent they actually hurt people. And the point of the story is this officer, he had these miniature handprints on the side of his car after the car is shaken violently and he doesn't see anybody nearby in an area where the legends say that these little people can come up to the surface and come to the surface world right by that property. So again, second story at that location. Third story, same location, different officer. There is an area just past the mission that has a large berm, and officers will go out there and do target practice. They'll practice shooting some of their service weapons, some of the stuff out there. This one officer had just finished with that. He actually had a ride along with him who actually ended up becoming his wife. They're driving back from that area, and you have to drive right past this mission. So as they're driving past this mission, his now wife, that ride along at the time, is kind of looking over at him talking. She's in the passenger seat. He's obviously in the driver's seat. And she looks past him and literally says, "What the expletive is that?" And he looks out, and there is a creature on all fours running next to the vehicle. He looked at it and he's like, I don't know what it was. It's not a wolf. It's not a coyote. I have no idea what this thing is. It's running next to the vehicle, and he's driving down the road. Now he's doing 25, 30 miles an hour. This creature keeps pace with the vehicle while they are going past this mission. And then it cuts in front of the vehicle through the headlights over towards the mission. Now, this officer had a second officer that was following him, who was also out there training. He's driving right behind him. This creature goes in front of him and runs towards the mission. So they're like, "Hey, we just got to get out of here." They basically take off, come to the chevron, obviously back to the chevron where it's the safest location. The other officer pulls up behind him, gets out of the car, looks at the first officer who's telling us the story, and says, "Did you see that thing that ran past you while we were driving past the mission?" And the officer's like, "Yes, what did you?" And they're comparing notes and they're saying, "What was it?" The second officer says, "I don't know what it was, but when it ran past your car, it ran towards the mission." Now that light that is on the back annex of the mission that I was talking about, it's on a motion detector or a timer where it clicks on and then clicks off. And the officer told us, "We've seen it come on and we've seen it come off." And what it does is when it comes on and comes off, it snaps on, it snaps off. This officer said, "I don't know what happened, but as this creature was running towards the annex, the light did not snap off. It dimmed and dimmed. And as the creature got closer, it got dimmer and dimmer until it finally went out when the creature was right by the annex." So another interesting thing going on right there at this. So we're gathering all these stories about this location, and Marianne, myself, and then two other members of UAPPD that we're dealing with, we're kind of talking about this, and we're like, wow, this is really kind of interesting. So this other officer comes on and tells us another story. First of all, to understand the story of this, you kind of have to understand the significance of owls in Native American culture. The owl is it's a spiritual creature. It's also a very troubling omen. If you see an owl in Native American culture, it's supposed to signify that somebody you know or somebody close to you, somebody that you know of is going to pass. This officer's telling us in one day, driving down the road past this, in the area of this mission, he ended up hitting 3 owls while he was driving down the road with his vehicle, while he was on FTO. Has an FTO riding next to him, experienced officer riding next to him, sees him hit these 3 owls and tells him, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm getting out of this car. I don't want to deal with this. You need to go. I don't care. You're out. Which is quite startling, to say the least. But same officer, same FTO. They drive down to check out the area where the shooting range is. They go check it out every so often just to make sure there's nobody there. As they're driving back out, they're passing the mission. They see the door on the annex is open. And so the officer's like, well, this is kind of weird. The door shouldn't be open. So they stop doing what good police officers do. Hey, we need to go investigate this. Why is the door open? I don't know. We should go check this out. So they go over to it. They end up having to climb over the fence because, of course, the fence is chained. So they climb over the fence. They go over to it, step up to the door, look inside. They don't see anybody in there. You guys saw a picture of the building. It's not an incredibly huge building. So you've got these 2 officers. They announce, they go inside, Gila River PD, come on out, let me see your hands. They go in and they clear the building just to make sure there's nobody in there. Because their initial thought is kids or somebody. It's an area, like I said, it's kind of by itself. So a lot of kids will go out there and they'll have campfires, they'll be drinking, they'll be riding quads, things like that. So their initial thought is, hey, maybe there's somebody in there. So they go inside, they clear the building. There's a door on the front, door on the back. Door on the front was one that was open. They look, nobody's in the building. They clear 100% sure there's nobody in the building. So they go over to the front door to try and lock the door. And in the process, they look and they see that the door is actually damaged and they're not going to be able to lock it. They can push it shut, but it's not going to be able to lock shut. So they're trying to come up with a way of rectifying this. And on the steps right there were 3 cinder blocks. So the FTO said, hey, why don't we pull the cinder blocks inside? We'll push the door shut. We'll stack the cinder blocks inside the door so nobody can push it open. And then we'll go out the back door, which does have a working lock. We can go out that way, lock it and shut it. And that way we'll be good because the door won't be able to get pushed open. Hopefully the people will come on Sunday morning, find it, fix it, so on and so forth. So they move the cinder blocks inside, they push the doors shut, they stack them up, they get it so that it's good. Okay. So they go over to the back door, they unlock the back door, go out, lock the door. They walk back around to the front so that they can hop the fence to get back into their patrol car so that they can continue on their day. So you saw the size of the building, not an incredibly large building. So from the time that it took them to leave the empty building that they've already searched and realize that there was nobody in there, to get around to the front of the building, you're talking maybe 5 seconds, 5, maybe 10 seconds. So they walk around to the front of the building. And when they get to the front, the doors are standing wide open again. The 3 cinder blocks that they had stacked inside behind the door are now on the ground in front of the annex. Keep in mind, nobody was in this building. They searched it. They stacked the cinder blocks inside the building, which means somebody had to figure out a way to get inside the building, grab the cinder blocks, throw them back out of the building, and then disappear in the 5 to 10 seconds it took these officers to walk from the back door to the front door. I just don't think that that's feasible. So the officer looks at him and he looks at the officer, and then the FTO looks at the officer and is like, yeah, we need to go, let's go. So they just left the door open, they jumped the fence, they climbed in the car and they took off. So we hear all of these stories, and because Marianne is horrible, she makes me go out and do an investigation at this place. Because like Tom said, I don't do anything. She's the brains, she's the brawn, she's everything. I'm just the guy who drives and carries stuff. So she's like, you know what? 4 stories out of 6, all at this place. We need to get out there and go take a look. So we go out to take a look. It's myself, Marianne. We have 2 other members that go with us, husband and wife, Jesse and Gwen. Jesse is like our tech guy. He has all the cameras and experience and stuff like that. Gwen is a hypnotherapist. She kind of is, when we're doing our UAP PD investigations with officers, she's kind of one of the people that helps us find help for officers who are trying to deal with the traumas. So we go out there, we're gonna do this investigation. We're gonna see, hey, this one location, 4 things that we've been told about. We know that there's a history of other stuff there. We need to go check this out. So we go out there. The first thing that we do is we walk around during the daytime. It's daylight when we first get there. We do a once over, like you would do as a normal investigation of a crime scene. We're walking around and I come up with the brilliant idea of, oh, we've got a lot of activity here. We saw footprints, we saw tire tracks, quad tracks, there was fire pits, there was broken beer bottles. So obviously we're noticing a lot of activity at this place as far as like probably teenagers, maybe college age kids, kind of out using this area as a party spot. So we're like, okay, that could maybe explain some of the stuff. You got a lot of kids there that are hanging out and doing things that they shouldn't. We go through this entire investigation. We're there for hours, probably about what, 4 hours maybe? And nothing happens. We don't see anything. We don't hear anything. We've got hours of video on video cameras that we're just panning around, looking around, trying to get a feel for it, trying to get a feeling. We see nothing. So now it's time that we're going to leave. I pick up the cooler, I put it in the back of the truck, I slam the tailgate truck shut, and I turn around and I see something. Gwen and I are standing next to each other. We look, and there is something that we watched walk out from behind the annex building. It walked through the fence into the roadway. Now, when I say through the fence, not through the gate, through the fence where there was no gate. It walked right through it, stopped in the middle of the roadway and looked at us. And it's probably about 60 to 65 feet away. And it's kind of looking at us and kind of doing this, going back and forth. And we're looking at it, and I go, Gwen, are you seeing this? And she's like, yes. Are you seeing this? And I'm like, yes. Marianne spins the camera around, tries to look at turns the camera over towards where it is. Jesse and her, for some reason, couldn't see this thing. It was very, very strange that 2 of us could see it, 2 of us couldn't. But Marianne has the video camera, so she spins around. The way that I would describe this thing is it looked humanoid. It had shaggy hair, and it was the perfect color tan to match the background if it was daylight. As this thing is wobbling back and forth, we're like looking at it going, what the heck is that thing? A second thing comes out, and it is on all fours, runs out from the same direction, stops about 50 feet in front of us, and looks at us, charges forward about 5 steps, then stops. At this point, Gwen and I are like, we need to leave. Jesse and Marianne, we all back up, we get in the truck, and we drive out. We decide we're gonna leave. We go down to, of course, we go down to the Chevron, because that's where apparently everybody goes when you see something at the mission. And we kind of talk about it, and I'm like, did I really see that? And again, the stigmas that we face start coming forward, and I'm like, I couldn't have seen, no, that was crazy. It had to be a trick of the light. It had to be something, I don't know what it's ridiculous. And Gwen's like, well, then why did I see it? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's gotta be our imaginations. So we decide we're gonna take off, head back towards our side of town. We decide to stop and get something to eat at Cracker Barrel. As we're sitting there at Cracker Barrel, Marianne's playing around with the video camera. And I'm looking at Gwen and I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. We clearly it must have been a trick of the light. It must have been something, I don't know. And that's when Marianne then taps me and goes, yeah, then what about this? And hands me the video camera. And on video, we have a video of something that moves into the middle of the road, and you can see it wobbling back and forth. The video it's hard to see what it is, but it's almost like a shimmering object or entity that is literally standing in the road going like this, looking in our direction. You can kind of see that. So we have this video, but we currently are having it analyzed. So we can't really show it to you yet because we want to have it done being analyzed before we start kind of showing it. But it was very interesting to me to be in that situation because when I started this, I was a very hardcore skeptic. And after 1.5 years of really being involved in this, I'm starting to kind of grasp that there's a lot of stuff out there that we may not truly understand. And at that, I think we're ready for questions.
Well, first thing is, questions, yes, but also if you know of any law enforcement officers or first responders that might have a great encounter that they've had that they never talk about, please write down our Gmail addresses, our emails. We are on Facebook. There's my phone number, my cell phone number. Please write that down. Give it to whoever. We would love to hear their stories. They can remain absolutely anonymous or they could be identified. It's up to them, whatever they feel comfortable about. Now, we do have a website. Unfortunately, our webmaster got hacked. So right now it's down. He'll be back into town tonight. So it'll be hopefully back up tomorrow morning. But the best way to get a hold of us is the uappolice@gmail.com or my cell number or Facebook are the best ways to get a hold of us. And we would love to hear everybody's story. That would be great. And with that, does anyone have a question for us? And he'll answer all of them.
No, she answered.
And I should have allowed everyone to unmute. So you should be able to unmute yourself. So just be respectful of other people asking questions.
I do have one question. Do you guys have funding of any kind, or is it all self-funded?
It's self-funded. We're doing what we can with what we got. Marianne is retired. I actually went back to work after retiring from the police department. So I still work full-time, but she's kind of spearheading this. But yeah, everything that we're doing, we're paying ourselves. Like when she travels places, she's footing the bill. When we go to conferences and stuff like that, we're for the most part paying our way.
We would like to be able to maybe start a GoFundMe, or if somebody contact us, if they'd like to make a donation, we can figure out how all that works.
Or buy one of these really cool t-shirts that we got.
Yes, we have black and we have gray. We have t-shirts, but yeah, that's the only way right now that we're getting the funding for the traveling, because anybody like the EMT from Kienta, she didn't want to talk on the phone. She didn't want to talk in Zoom. She wanted me to come up there and talk in person, which I think it's great because then they get to know us on a one-on-one level and see who we really are. So anybody that has anything, I'll be more than happy to get on a plane or get in my Jeep and travel wherever I go. But I know that's a long way of answering your question, but no, we would like to get some donations, but right now it's us funding ourselves.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey
I
guys,
have a
so
question.
I understand that you do have a website, even though it's hacked right now. That really sucks. But what is the website so we can maybe check it out when it comes back up?
Sure, it's uap-pd.com.
And then our Facebook page is UAPPD as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, we're gonna get that webmaster on the ball tonight.
I have a question.
Shoot, Roger.
Okay, the dog that was running alongside the car and went between the two cars that were following each other. Did it run through the fence gate or did it go through the gate?
He lost sight of it. He lost sight of it when it was parallel to the gate. So it was running along the gate on the outside of the gate, along the annex building side. So the far side of the property, the road kind of goes along that side. So it cut in front of the vehicle, and then ran back towards it, past it along that side, but on the outside of the fence.
Okay, thank you.
I get another question for you. So considering the areas that you saw these creatures, humanoids, whatever it was, did you do any, and then I'm just curious, but did you do any radiation type readings to see if anything was off or different in that respect?
No, we didn't do anything with radiation because it's still private property. So we didn't want to do too much of an investigation without getting permission from the owners. And that's kind of causing us to not be able to do a follow-up yet. We're still kind of in negotiations of trying to get out there to do a more in-depth investigation since we actually saw something. The reality is we didn't really think we were going to see anything at the first time.
That's amazing.
And kudos to you guys for doing this. This is fantastic, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got a high quality of experience or sighting, and it helps that we have this type of information come forward. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And we are in the process of writing a book. And that's why we tell first responders and all, even if they don't want to be identified, which is great, if they would allow us to use their encounters in the book and all, but we are going to be writing a book. Hopefully, it'd be so neat if it was out in 2025.
Hopefully.
But
But
it
yeah.
it is really neat.
And the reality is of all of the officers that we've talked to, we've got over 50 stories now. We've only had one detective kind of like, hey, I don't want you to use this story because it's still an active cold case homicide case. And he's like, so I can't have you use that one, but he still told us the full story. And when it becomes not a cold case anymore, or if we can get permission from the families, that's gonna be an amazing story if we can get it.
Oh, yeah,
So.
big time.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. And this is that some of the investigators at Skinwalker Ranch found that the phenomena followed them home. Did any of the 6 reports that you investigated have some phenomena follow them back home, so to speak?
Not that we have experienced. We have not had anything follow us home, but we take precautions. Like, I know you guys, well, maybe that's an assumption, but John Dover and Stan Milford, if you guys know them, the Navajo Rangers, we work very close with them, and they have helped instruct us on things we can do to protect ourselves. The officers, when they go out and encounter stuff, again, the ones that encounter stuff on the res, like we have they have that policy of what to do if they encounter something. They have that training to do it. We personally have not had any encounters like that yet. And hopefully we can continue to do the right things and not have it happen, as my wife over there just looked at me in a very threatening manner. I will make sure that I don't do anything like that, babe.
If we do have, John and Stan have been gracious enough. We've had some sage, we have some cedar, and we're prepared to smoke ourselves or smudge ourselves if necessary. The officers, like they said, that policy they have, if they don't flip up their rearview mirror and those red lights or eyes are in their rearview mirror, they will be going to a medicine man, and they would have a ceremony performed on them. The folks that we've spoke to, I don't think they've had any issues. We never really asked them, but I figured they would bring that up if it did have.
We did ask a couple, but
We did, okay.
none that said anything. And again, like I said, with my wife off screen there, she does not like the idea. So we definitely are taking precautions, because I think she'll beat up both of us if
Oh, yeah.
we do anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
You know, one thing I do want to ask about, so because this caught my attention, it's kind of coming up back again now. You talked about the red eyes and the ceremony and whatnot.
Mhm.
It's been about 30 plus years ago. I was in northern Wisconsin on Indian territory, and it was very late at night, and I saw something that it was real. I don't know if I want to say it was just disturbing or upsetting or how I would describe it, but first thing I could do the next morning is I went into the town and asked to find a medicine man or someone like that, and I was directed to a person, and I spent a good chunk of time with this person talking about a lot of things, but he instructed me to perform a ceremony or a ritual before the sun went down. He was really important. He really drove home that he really needed to know, has the sun gone down since this happened? And it hadn't, because it was that next morning. So he was really clear that I had to do this ceremony or ritual before the sun went down again. So do you know anything about their ceremony or what that's about? 'Cause I'm curious if it was anything like what I was instructed to do, or
They didn't go into detail, but the red eyes that they say, it happens at night, and they are instructed to immediately contact their supervisor and get it done before their end of shift. So it has to be something similar, because it's like, you see it happen, you have to immediately get to obviously the Chevron, 'cause that's where everybody goes, call the supervisor and tell him what happened, and they immediately take them to go have the ceremony done. We don't know what the ceremony entails, other than it is to sever a connection that's put on there. And to answer the next question, when we drove down that road, I wanted to have the mirror down. Somebody wouldn't let me do it. Actually, the three other people in the car wouldn't let me
Yes.
do it.
I
But
recall-
I wanted to see it and see what happened, but that's because I'm not as smart as the other three.
I was just, I recall saying something about brains a little while ago. I think that might be
Exactly.
brains.
Again, just
You hit the
reiterate
nail on
your
the head,
point
yep.
right there.
Yep.
I have another question.
Mhm.
What percentage of police officers will actually see something, even though we know that maybe not all of them come forward with it?
It's hard to tell because right now you're looking at 50%. One of us had an encounter on duty and one of us didn't. I guarantee you it's happening more often than we know, because shockingly, a bunch of officers from our own agency that we had no idea had things happen have been people that have given us stories for the book. And so it's hard to answer that question because, I mean, there's over 800,000 law enforcement officers in the country right now. How many of them have experienced things? I don't know, but we were on Coast to Coast AM a couple weeks ago, and George Knapp was talking with us, and you guys know the structure of the show. That last half hour they have open for phone calls. And when we broke for commercial and came back from commercial, George was like, we have more phone calls. The lines are lit up. There's no way we can get through this many calls in the time that we have left. So I mean, the number, it's gotta be up there. It's gotta be up there.
Is there anything there that would indicate portal at the Santa Cruz?
Yes, again, when we talk about the little people thing, they believe that there is a entryway, and all they'll say is entryway. Could that mean portal? Maybe. Could it mean literally a hole in the ground? I don't know. We walked around that place in the daylight hours and I did not see a hole in the ground anywhere. And there is like literally a wash that goes next to it. Jesse and I climbed down into the wash and walked, I don't even remember how far. We went up and down both directions of that wash just to see if there was like maybe a cave or an entrance that went underground there. And we couldn't find anything. But it is believed that there is some sort of entry there. Maybe it's a portal, maybe it's physical, but we don't know for sure. We didn't find anything though.
Well, I was wondering if maybe you saw some stones in a spiral or a spiral path or anything like that.
No, we were looking for that. We didn't find anything like that. The only thing that caused us, I would say, a little bit of like you have every once in a while you get that kind of uneasy feeling. Believe it or not, was that well in the front where the cross is, that well that they covered up and they capped and they put the cross on it, had a really weird, like whenever we were standing at the front kind of over by it, it was like kind of like, I don't know, you kind of get that like creepy feeling every once in a while. And it was just there. Like when we walked around to the backside, even when we walked, because I was actually in the area where we saw those things come out, when it was daylight, Jesse and I walked right through that area. And we didn't, there was nothing. It was just like, yeah, it was walking through the desert. But when we got to the front by that well, it was kind of like, kind of a weird spot. So. But we didn't see any actual, because we have that out here in Arizona a lot. You'll see the pictographs and you'll see stones arranged in certain manners and almost like the footpaths that'll walk in a spiral and stuff like that. And so we kind of look for things like that when we're out on the scene, when we do that once over, that cursory kind of look. We're looking for those things that kind of trigger something to make us go, we want to keep an eye on this area, especially while we're out here. And we did a relatively thorough walkthrough and we didn't see anything like that.
The other question I had is, do you have someone who's a psychic sensitive?
We do. We talked to one of the people that comes out and helps with us. She knows things, we'll put it that way. Again,
Yeah.
I'm still the hardcore skeptic on certain things. I still need some convincing. And she's answered some questions and said some things that have made me stop and pause. But yeah, we do have some people that we talk to, just like every police agency. I think, well, maybe not every, but a lot of police agencies will talk to psychics or talk to people who have feelings and senses that they can't explain. And yeah, we do speak with some people like that.
Yeah, on our team, we have a couple of people that are sensitive. We also have our video and photo analysts that come out if we get a body cam, if we get any kind of video from an officer or still photo or anything. We have a couple of guys that actually are the video. Mark D'Antonio's one of them. Yeah, Mark D'Antonio, the chief video photo analyst for MUFON. He's one of our guys that we go to that we will send him that information and have him do an analysis for us.
I was just curious as I'd been a remote viewer in my life.
Oh, cool.
I went through the training that the CIA had for me.
Oh, okay, very cool.
I'd like to hear some stories from you, on that one.
Yeah, we might need to talk.
Well, it's a gateway experience. You can find it just about anywhere.
Yeah. All right, any other?
I got a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Does this include the highway patrol officers also?
Absolutely,
else?
any first responder, so
Okay, thank you.
local highway patrol, state, county,
Federal, yeah.
federal, anyone who is a first responder, and it doesn't have to just be police as well. Could be firefighters, could be park rangers, could be EMTs, anyone who's a first responder who finds themselves in that situation where we've got no one to talk to. We want to talk to them. We want to give them that out, someplace that they can talk.
Thank you.
Would that include airline pilots?
We haven't gotten any airline pilots. Maybe at some point we might branch out, but we've got so many first responders calling us. Obviously, we still want more. We're kind of just focusing on that first responder niche right now, because it seems to be that group that nobody really kind of acknowledged as having these situations. Because you hear about airline pilots, you hear about military personnel, and a lot of people are already reaching out to them, but you don't really hear about many people reaching out to the first responders. And so that's kind of like our niche where we're trying to stick right now.
You know, you talk about stigma, and it's decreasing. It definitely is, with the government coming out and saying they don't know what it is. But even for me personally, I've kind of always been the weird one in the family. I go to MUFON meetings. My nephew, who is a Air Force pilot, was flying from El Paso to Newark, I believe, just here a couple of weeks ago, and they saw lights in the sky that they couldn't explain. And he told me that he's not going to report it because of the stigma.
Yeah,
That's exactly it. Even though the government's saying, oh, don't worry, it's a safe zone, please come and tell us, the military and the pilots. Oh, just like your nephew, there's no way in the world that he's ever going to say, because he'll probably never fly again.
And here's the thing, Tori, if your nephew finds himself at that point where he wants to talk to somebody and he can't find anyone to talk to, he can reach out to us. We can at least give him a sounding board that he can talk to. If need be, we can hook him up with some people that might be able to help him negotiate the trauma as well. Because even though like our niche is first responders, obviously we're still cops, we're still public servants. We're going to try and help whoever we can help. We just want to kind of stick with the law enforcement first responders. But if he's got nobody to talk to and he's ever like, I got to get this off my chest, have him reach out to us.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Cool. Questions. Now's your chance. If you got questions, now's your chance.
Well, folks, if you have any questions later on, please, again, you've got our email, Facebook, you've got my phone number, please just give us a call. I'd be more than happy. Like I said, unfortunately, he has to work because his wife over here makes him work. I love it. But I am totally retired and stuff. Like I said, be more than happy to talk to anyone fly out to anywhere, drive in, to speak with anybody, help them out and get their stories. Anything that we need to do.
Cool. Minnesota MUFON. Let's give Marianne and Rich a big round of applause. Or Dave, I'm sorry. So,
Happens.
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. So, oh, yep, thank you. So cool. So that's going to wrap us up.